The series name is What If Naruto Was in Jujutsu Kaisen Universe. This is second part of the series, so let's start the series. So, Kushina began as their entire group sat in Satoru's room in Jujutsu High. What do you plan on doing, Naruto-kun? She asked her son, wearing a long orange cheongsam with black borders, black pants with yellow ornate circles on the thighs, and black ninja sandals. Naruto adjusted his ryubang on his lower back before tightening a pouch on his thigh for Sage's talisman. Well, talk to the guy, he said like it was the simplest thing in the world. I'm already wearing mom-enhanced clothing. I'm surprised you knew how to do that, Kushina-san, Yutaheim said. I didn't think anyone but our uniform makers knew how to make those. I did act as one for a bit, Kushina said, surprising most of the group. I've made over half our clothes like that. I want my family as safe as can be. Thank you very much. That's why we're both going, Minato said with a smile. Wearing a similar outfit to his son but with dark blue, silver, and gold in place of orange, black, and borders/accents, Minato had a box on his thigh full of talismans of his own making. Here, he opened the box up before taking out a pair of talismans before giving them to his son, just some barrier talismans. Naruto blinked at the blue with white scripture items before nodding. They're fitted for you, Yutaheim said, black bags beneath her eyes that had Naruto wincing. No, it's fine, I promise. Making those in time took a few all-nighters. We'll need to do something for Haim-chan, Kushina said as the woman in question smiled tiredly, listing a bit to the side before Satoru's finger pushed her back. Okay, I know you said it'd be better for Uncle to go, but why? Satoru asked with a small pout as Geto shook his head. Do you honestly need to ask that? He asked him, Satoru, you're the shining lamb of your clan and one with both curse techniques in over 100 years. The last time someone like you and a Zenin met, it ended in a double homicide. And, oh my god, Shoko, please, stop being an idiot, the third positive energy user in the room said, ignoring that, you'd likely make the situation more tense than it needs to be. Minato-san is a proven smooth talker right now. Naruto just needs to talk with Nobito Zenin, while his dad just needs to keep the situation under control. Your belief in me is staggering, Satoru said, messing with his new slicked up and back hairstyle. Fine, I'm not an idiot. I just want to be sure we've got deterrence from any antsy guys. That's what this guy is for, Naruto said, a small brown-toed Shikigami sitting on his shoulder. You guys can see the situation from here while we're in there. Anything crazy happens, you're one application of my technique away, Minato said with a smile as Satoru felt the dimly glowing Horatian talisman on his bicep. It'd be rough revealing that card of ours, but anything for the sake of keeping the situation in our favor. Mei hummed. Well, when did you say you'd meet him? She asked. I know what you mean, Minato nodded. We'll be going there several minutes ahead of time. It's good to show we're punctual while also making him realize he might be taking up our time. There's the businessman, Riko said. Time to hide your tail. Naruto-kun, she said, fox ears still on her head but tail gone. I kinda wish mine were the other way around. As it turned out, she could make her tail disappear thanks to Naruto's tutelage, but that was it. Her ears stayed no matter how much her powers were hidden or even sealed. It was something she just have to deal with, sadly. Yeah, Naruto nodded, the extra limb vanishing without any effort. Alright, Pops, let's go and see a Zenin. I'm sure there will be more, Minato said. All the research we could all do led to the conclusion we'll be sitting before a series of either their elders and Hay Squad or the 5 toughest members of their clan. Either or, really, they shouldn't be seeking a fight, just some grandstanding though not for our favor. They got up with Kushina and Satoru getting up with them. Let's go. NRK, Zenin clan estate. Walking to the Zenin estate was curious, especially because of the amount of land the clan had. Whoa, Naruto blinked at it all. Minato nodding as a Shikigami falcon flew around from above, form barely a blur to those not used to high-speed combat. The Zenin estate wasn't small in the least. After walking up a large number of cleanly made stone steps and pathways, you ended up at a large lake with a series of bridges within it, dotted by Zenin family members, that led towards what was an enormous amount of homes and buildings. The homes were uniform in color and style, interconnected by well-made external pathways filled with more Zenin family members, while looking to the sides would allow the blondes to see even more land. Minato's Shikigami appeared by the man, landing on his shoulder where he noticed its wing was clipped. I see, he dispelled it with a smile. He really told his whole family about this. Minato said as Naruto folded his arms behind his head before father and son began to walk towards the main house. There's a couple of them in the water, Naruto said as they passed by a few of them, 2, 4, 6, 10 of them. They're not feeling angry but cautious, he told Minato, who nodded before noticing Naruto's wrists. Still wearing them? Naruto blinked before perking up. Oh yeah, I didn't think about taking them off. Didn't you just get the next set of pounds? Minato cupped his chin with interest. If I'm right, his son's internal abilities were truly something to be feared even at his current age. It's just, I was wondering if they're supposed to set in or not. Scratch that, Naruto's limits have likely skyrocketed. And there was something else. Those who lose cursed energy typically become physical monsters. Even before all of this, Naruto had been over thrice the strength of a 7-year-old with his weights on. With them off, the boy was faster than an Olympic athlete at 7. So, with his new power, Maki, get back here! The two blinked before turning their heads to the side to see a girl hurrying after what looked like a floating ball. I can get it, Maki said as she reached for the floating object. The running girl tripped with a wince hand still reaching out for the ball in the river, before blinking as she was set back on her feet by Minato, the man laughing a bit as he handed her back her toy. The entire Zenin family members around flinched. Too fast, way too fast. The girl, Maki, looked up at Minato as Naruto landed behind him. Good work, Dad, he grinned as his father nodded. Thanks, now young lady. Minato crouched down to Maki's level. Please, be careful, you might have ended up with a cold because of such a fall, he said as he observed her for bruising. She was about as short as Naruto was, with chin-length dark green hair, fair skin, and brown eyes that shot him a look of disbelief. Wearing a white shitage, black hakama, tabi socks, and Zora sandals, the young female Zenin gasped. Humph! Minato nodded before standing to his feet, allowing the girl to see the man's grinning son. All right, please be careful next time, Maki-kun. He smiled before turning around and walking off with his child. Later, Naruto waved back with a chuckle before turning back around. Oh, there are more of them in the water over here. Maki's eyes widened. He can see them? Her mind ran awhirl with thoughts, remembering what the entire family had been told about their visitors. Maki, came another girl's voice, one who looked nearly the same as Maki herself. Her only real difference was her hair, which had begun to become fluffy, as she liked to call it. Hey, are you all right? The other girl, her twin, asked with a look back at the two blondes. Dad's gonna be mad, she said as her head fell before she found a ball in her face. Here. Maki grinned as her sister stared in shock before taking it with a small smile. I know, but it's your favorite ball, she said as their mother ran up to them with a horrified look. I know, mother. The woman grimaced, looking away with what Maki had long since realized was shame. She hated it, the look, the expression, and being the one who caused it. Anarchy. Back with the father-son duo, they'd reached the doors of the main clan building, both sides of it having a guard. Wearing a pair of black pants tightened by the ankles and shins with white wrappings, black martial artist slip-ons, and white robe tops with the wrists secured by black forearm guards. They wielded a pair of spears that sat crossed above in front of the door. We're here to speak with Naobito Zenin-san, Minato said simply and matter-of-factly. We're all well aware of your invitation, one of the two men said with a frown, the two of them lifting their weapons as a voice came from within the home. Come in. The guards jumped a bit, looking concerned, while Minato and Naruto nodded before giving in to the command. Sliding the double doors apart, they found a huge dojo within their first steps. Sitting within it were 5 individuals. Naobito smirked at the father-son duo, dressed as he always was, while a teen sat beside him with a raised brow. He was older than Naruto by likely a decade, bearing fair skin with a slightly angular chin, calculative brown eyes, and black hair with a dyed blonde center. Wearing a pair of black hakama, tabi socks, a dull green haori, and white shitage, he shot the two a look of disinterest. Oh, you're gonna be fun, Naruto thought as he saw Oji and Junichi. They're the other two, and that right guy's the one with an experiment. He wanted to roll his eyes, but his attention went to the last person in the room, a young man who might have been only 5 years Naruto's senior. He was around half a foot taller than the short blonde with spiky black hair that had a small ponytail at the back. He had fair skin like the rest of his family, black eyes, and a welcoming expression. Wearing a white shitage, black hakama, and tabi socks, he was essentially the one person in the room who seemed even remotely happy to see them. I'm surprised they sent you, Minato Uzumaki, Naruto said as the doors behind the two closed. Knowing that rambunctious brat, I expected Satoru to follow along. We're well aware that's a bad idea, Minato said with a smile, he and Naruto coming over before sitting in front of the five. Satoru-kun is young and a bit brash. He needs time to become the man he's meant to be. Curious. You blonde boy, Junichi spoke up without a single breath passing. What is the truth of the matter between you and Toji? He asked without preamble. The boy sitting directly next to Nobito's eyes widened. What? In time, Naoya, let your cousin speak, Nobito said as he smirked. The young man, Naoya, had his eyes narrowing before they landed on Naruto. This kid? What did he have to do with Toji? What had happened? I don't follow? Naruto said in confusion. Wait, he's that guy who cut me down, yeah? That failure couldn't even do that right, Junichi said as Naruto's mental eyebrow ticked. Yes, that man. What is it? Did he not hit your vitals properly? I don't. You guys probably heard this already, but I was barely alive. I'm pretty sure I passed on for a bit there. It wouldn't be impossible. So, what exactly did you call me for, Nobito Gigi? Naruto asked without issue, Nobito laughing as Naoya stared at the boy in confusion. Oji grimaced. Well. I heard you were friendly but a Gigi out the gate? That's quite bold of you. Nobito smirked as Naruto grinned without remorse. Curious. Perhaps this won't be uninteresting. First things first, what do you say to a spar between you and Rantaboya here? He gestured to the boy next to Junichi. Good morning. Ranta declared with a puffed-out chest and a bright grin. I am Ranta Zenin. My cousin wished for me to learn what true combat is, and not to offend, but you are 5 years my junior. I'm not sure if such a match would be noteworthy, the boy began before wearing an uncomfortable look. Look, Ranta, I have no problem sparring with you, no offense, but I've already fought and beat people bigger and stronger than you before, Naruto said without remorse as the older boy perked up. Really? How? I was giving some amazing shikigami by Utane and Yagabro. Noticing the boy's look of confusion, Naruto chuckled nervously. Oh. Yutaheim and Yaga Mazamichi? Really? The other boy looked intrigued. Are you their student? Mostly Yutaheim Nachans, but I've sparred with Yagabro's cursed puppets before. Ranta looked pensive, considering his words. Then, if you would, please have a spar with me at a determined date, the boy grinned. I believe this might be interesting. Are you primarily a shikigami user? Nope. I also practice hand-to-hand with my cuz, Yagabro's puppets, and even my dad sometimes, Naruto nodded sagely. Ah yes, you're a sorcerer, Minato-kun, Nobito said with a raised brow. I am. My wife brought with our marriage more interesting things than I could imagine, the former Hokage said. That said, Jujutsu has been rather fascinating to me, and my own curse technique brought with it more odd ideas. Naoya frowned while crossing his arms. We didn't ask about that, you're a known quantity. The young man frowned as Nobito snorted. Aren't you supposed to be polite? Naruto asked him without missing a step, Naoya's eyebrows furrowing. Besides, I don't think anyone asked for your opinion, he told him with a frown. I'd say the same. I'm sorry, what kind of host are you again? Naoya's hackles raised a bit. This insolent little insect. His eyebrow twitched as Junichi smirked a bit while Oji huffed. Boy, don't waste our time, the second oldest in the room frowned. We're the hosts as you said. Don't disrespect the hospitality brought to you. You're not wrong, Oji-san, Minato said. As one father to another, you're not wrong to imply politeness and kindness. But Naruto is correct. What Naoya-kun said can be construed in a number of ways that aren't hospitality-driven. Naoya and Oji felt their eyebrows twitching at the man's logic, Nobito snickering a bit at that. I'd enjoy the show you'd all bring, but this is about my talk with the boy, right? He asked with a smirk. Junichi got his student his fight to be. Now is my time. Apologies, father, Naoya said, but inside, he was seething. These insubordinate plebeians. It made his blood boil to have such words thrown at him. His eyes went to Naruto. Locked gazes with Naruto, the boy's single visible eye staring back at him without a hint of fear or reverence. How infuriating. Apologies, Nobito, Oji grimaced. Annoying, all of them. It never failed to make him despise those in the room. Minato Uzumaki seemed to so easily add himself to that criteria, and yet his boy bothered Oji on a fundamental level. The boy gaining attention he didn't rightfully deserve because of those ridiculous claims made Oji furious. Apologies, Naruto-san, Minato said with a sheepish smile. Things might have gotten off track. I can see, but it was of little importance. I can tell wrongdoing from my own clan with but a gaze. Naoya and Oji grimaced while the old man grinned. Now, I do have words for your boy. Satoru Goju and Geto Suguru have had a lot to say about him. Minato-kun, it's quite curious. Ask away. Minato deferred the questions to his son, who nodded. What's on your mind, Nobito Jiji? Naruto asked as the old man hummed. You seem to grasp a lot of our tradition and older motives, so I'd ask, what do you believe is the change you want to subject us to? The old man asked as Naoya frowned. I think that, right now, we've got a good foundation, Naruto said with a nod, but that's it. A foundation's great, but you have to build on it. Like with what happened to Riko. Why did they think it'd be a good idea to just throw a teenage girl into what is basically a dungeon and act like it'd be a good idea? Oh? You know, then, that this has happened a few times before. Those who became Tengen-sama's vessel have never altered our course. But those people were actual individuals who knew what they'd be getting into. Riko, at the time when she was chosen, only knew for, what? A couple days? She was being strong about it, but she had nothing but fear after getting to Jujutsu High, and that wasn't even after she'd gotten attacked. It'd matter little, Junichi added with a huff. She and Master Tengen would become one. His own feelings on the matter would usurp her sentimentalities. And you think that's fine? Naruto asked him without missing a beat. I'd ask everyone I know what they became a sorcerer for and what a sorcerer does, because, last I checked, we're Jujutsu sorcerers because the normal people of the world can't handle all of this. Curses, Tengen, enemy organizations, cursed techniques and big families? The world would fall to chaos due to people with unusual techniques that might very well be put in danger because they have them. His eye narrowed as Junichi locked gaze. We keep things to a minimum because it's for them, right? There was silence for a moment, Nobito humming at Naruto's words as Junichi's eyes closed in thought. And you'd have us let Tengen-sama fall to his cursed nature? Oji had to break this silence. The boy was garnering too much respect, no matter how small, from the two other men. It'd be madness to let his words ring for as long as they did. Instead of just letting it happen, Naruto shot back as the man growled. Instead of literally just sacrificing someone else, why not? I don't know. Try something different? Things have been this way because this is how they have become, Junichi said. Is that enough for you? You say that, but then let me ask this, Naruto countered. When was the last time anyone tried to help Tengen without trying to merge him? There was more silence as Nobito's hums grew louder. You believe we've not tried enough? The man asked openly. Yes, well, color him impressed. A brave fool with conviction in his ambitions. Nobito hadn't met such a person with those qualities in a long time, especially not in one so young. Naoya's cheek twitched. Amongst all else, things have changed like I said at the meeting with the superiors. Naoya choked in disbelief, while Oji's fists clenched. Do you guys honestly not want to try again? Really? Was giving up really your best idea? Junichi frowned at that. Tengen-sama's situation isn't normal even amongst the Jujutsu world, Uzumaki. You're right, but neither is Aniki, Naruto said. Neither am I. Neither are people who are born with heavenly restrictions. Something that didn't happen like it did in the early days of Jujutsu, right? Things have changed. There has to be more methods to try to help the world while not trying to sacrifice the people in it. That's what I believe amongst all else. The moment you give up, that's it. You're basically leaving him alone to his fate. I'd even bet Tengen-no-Jiji was lonely down there. I think that might also be another reason he might want these mergers. Because he can experience the world outside that he can't outside of just his senses. Oji frowned. Feeling the sun? Going to meet other people? Family? With how long he's been down there, I'd bet he has no idea what those things are even like anymore. Nobito closed his eyes with a shrug. Perhaps. He needs more than just to be renewed. He needs people just like any one of us. Minato smiled at that, staying silent as his son reaffirmed who he was, and how he viewed their world. I see, this is what that ghetto boy meant, Nobito said with another shrug. Honestly, these next generations truly are filled with odd children like my son. He smirked as Naruto chuckled a bit. I'll give your words some thought. No promises. But it'll be interesting thinking of counterarguments. Naruto's sweat dropped. Whatever, old man, I'll argue with you any day of the week. Ha ha. The Zenin head grinned. I like you, boy, you've got fire. These ought to be a curious last couple of decades on this earth. Now, As for other things, tell me more, can you respond? The man vanished, but he hadn't left the blonde's sights. To him, Naobito's face appeared behind them only to find the two staring at him. Both blondes. Oh, that's interesting. Oji's eyes snapped open while Junichi's narrowed in interest. Naoya's eyes narrowed while Ranta gasped. Why, you can see Zenin-sama? He asked Naruto in shock. Could he really follow him? Naobito cupped his chin with a smirk. The two blondes' heads snapped to the side where he reappeared before going to Naoya, where Naobito laughed, his son grimacing as he barely kept up. As he trailed behind a child and reacting to his father, his fists trembled. And you, Minato-kun, I didn't expect it. Naobito smirked. You wouldn't happen to be a true combatant, would you? Minato smiled. I might be if you're asking for the truth. Yes, I'd like to know. We could designate a day if you wish. Naobito Zenin looked excited while Ranta was simply floored and awed. See, cousin, will our fight be fair? Ranta asked Junichi, who smirked like his uncle. No, we'll have to see. Will you prevail? Or will the Gojo boy's senses overtake you? These are the battles you must face, Ranta. They will make you stronger, Junichi said with a gleam in his eyes. But now I'm interested in the boy's father. No mere mortal can just react to Naobito's speed, much less a not trained one. But isn't he trained? I'm sure he is. Oji and Naoya grimaced in their minds. Of course, a Gojo would cause such a disturbance in my family, they thought with narrowed eyes that landed on the young blonde. He's a problem. They needed to figure this situation out and untangle it lest it taint their clan. The quintet of Naruto, Naobito, Minato, Ranta, and Junichi spoke at length for possibly an hour before things calmed down. Enough for Naobito to invite them for brunch. Naoya and Oji were utterly flabbergasted. NRK. Naruto smiled a bit as he sat on a meditating stone that was held within the Zenin estate. His father speaking with Naobito about his ideas and understanding of cursed energy. I'm glad this worked out, he said to himself and the Toad Shikigami. Honestly, this went way better than I expected. Huh! Came a voice from behind him, confusing the blonde before he turned around to find a familiar sight. Why, you survived? Maki, right? Naruto asked her, turning around to face the girl who'd shot him a pout. No, wait, you're not Maki. She didn't feel the exact same. With how much he'd used his sensory skill throughout his lifetimes, Naruto had become pretty good at sorting through signatures and presences. This girl before him, even if she looked and felt like that Maki gal, wasn't Maki. She perked back up in surprise. Huh? You can tell? The girl asked in shock and a little bit of excitement. Hee. Naruto was just confused. NRK. There's no way this is heading where I think it is, Satoru said as Kushina, Mei, and Yudaheim chattered excitedly about the little meeting. Geto, back me up here. I mean, Kushina-san did kinda jinx us with that marriage comment, the cursed spirit user said with a shaky grin as Shoko rolled her eyes. Riko was just in disbelief. How in the world is this kid doing it? She asked the three, who shrugged. NRK. Naruto blinked as the girl grinned slyly at him. What's happening now? He wondered with a squint-eyed expression. The girl's eyes widened at the sight, scrambling up onto the rock to stare at his foxy looks. You're so foxy, she giggled as he blinked before pouting. And yes, it did make him look more foxy. Yeah, well, thanks, he said awkwardly. So, you're not Maki. What's your name? Mai. The girl, Mai, said with a grin. Maki's my twin sister. I'm figuring that out right now. What were you guys called here for? Mai asked right out the gates as he blinked. Zenin-sama doesn't usually call guests over that aren't. She leaned in while looking around. Old. Naruto snorted before laughing at that. Oh, I can bet God, I really do think old people like talking to old people. I can never figure out why, but I think it has to do with telekinesis. She grinned slyly at that. They always have candy. Never stop trying to pinch your cheeks. They like old picture shows. I think I caught one of the old Goju guys trying to dance at one point. They snickered at the examples they had to share. NRK. Welp, that kid's never living this down. Talk about digging your own grave. Shoko's sweat dropped at Geto and Satoru while the older members squealed. Riko-chan. Yep, they're being boys. NRK. Mai kicked her legs back and forth over the edge of the meditation stone. Why, you're like Maki. Huh? Naruto blinked before remembering something. Wait, didn't they say that OG dude complained about having defective children? He wanted to groan, but Mai wasn't deserving of that. Oh yeah? Why yeah, she doesn't have cursed energy and stuff, Mai pouted. I guess people don't treat her nice, huh? No. I do, but... Mai grimaced and Naruto frowned. It's no good. What? What is it? Naruto asked, curious. Mai blushed before holding out her hands only to flinch. I can't do it. I'd be so stupid and dumb and you're not any of those things. Naruto didn't like the picture that was forming and changed topics. How about you just tell me about it? Mai considered him for a moment, his welcoming smile getting a grumble out of her. Well. I can make things with my cursed energy but I can only do it once. She whined. Why? Is there something different about your cursed energy? I don't know, the adults keep saying it's because we're twins. Huh? Why? I mean, I don't get it. How did being twins change anything? Oh, wait. He considered something as she shot him a look of disbelief. Why, you know why? Mai couldn't believe it. She just told him. How could he figure it out? Well, from what I know about the whole twins thing, Naruto began as she nodded rapidly, you guys were originally one baby cell thing that turned into two. Mai's eyes widened. So, when you put it like that, it's like your souls and stuff are linked, that might be why. Mai was floored at his words, trying to find the problem with them but coming back with nothing. Is that true? If that was the case, she understood why the adults called them misfortune. Who? Naruto rubbed the back of his head. Well, I mean, isn't Maki super strong and stuff? She is, so she can be amazing all on that alone. Don't let some jerks tell you can't be amazing, he said with a sagely nod as she pouted. He didn't understand, truly. He was blessed if only because he didn't live in this family. Mai felt green for the first time in her life. And so can you, Naruto added. She perked up in confusion. What? How could he say that? Naruto-kun, I don't get it. How? Duh, Mai-chan, just because your curse technique does that doesn't mean you can't find other ways to improve your skills. Hell, here, see? He summoned Sage, alarming the girl who saw the flexing Oni. How? I thought you. So, Maki can. Yep, though, it's different for her, Naruto said, confusing her. How can I put this? Maki seems to still have some cursed energy, but it's no more than a normal person's. My dad was a normal person, but he had above-average cursed energy, so when he and my mom were married, he joined in. Why, your dad wasn't a... No way, right? How? How would a Goju marry a normal person and not feel angry? Naruto-kun, didn't people hate your dad? Mai asked, gripping her pants leg. Oh god, they really don't like him, Naruto told her with a frown. But the thing is, they already didn't like me, Mai-chan, so, you can consider it like lumping on two things they didn't dislike. Heck, my mom, me, and Pops moved because those old goats were really pressuring her and Aniki. He tapped his bandage-covered eye. They're the main reason I cover this bad boy while I'm here. I thought you got hurt. Nope, just covered. My left eye's like Satoru's, but I don't have the 6 eyes and, trust me, they ain't happy about that. Mai kind of understood him. He did get it then, right? About how the expectations of those in the family made your life hell. But that wasn't true, not fully. His parents still loved him. His cousin did as well, Naruto's amazing cousin. She pouted a bit before being broken out of her painful place, again by him, this bright-haired boy. Back on your technique, Mai-chan, he said seriously with a smirk as she blinked. So, the things you make, are they there forever? What? No, of course not, that would have been useful. Mai's life wasn't so convenient. Okay, next idea. She stared at him in confusion, even though that one would have been the best. What do you mean? Naruto blinked before smiling. Let me tell you something I literally just told Nobito Gigi. Despite herself, Mai giggled. Yep, so, I told him this when it came to Tenjin. You know that dude? You met him? Mai gasped as Naruto grinned shakily. I met his next vessel, he clarified. Anyway, I was talking to him about what I thought about it. He went on to reiterate his words, thoughts, and feelings about the situation to the girl who covered her mouth in shock. Uncle just listened? That sounded impossible. What did you do? She wondered even as she considered Naruto's words. How special are you really that Zenin-sama listened to you? How blessed. Something had to be special about Naruto for Nobito to listen to him, surely. So, like I told him, you can't just stop trying if you really want to help someone, Naruto said with a frown and closed eyes. Keep trying, learn stuff, go try things out. While I'll accept that Tenjin might have had it rough in the past, nowadays, things are different and full of new ideas and abilities. I'm sure there's a way to help him, so, like that. I'm sure there's a way to give you more ideas. Mai covered her mouth with her sleeves. Naruto-kun? Yeah? I don't want to be a sorcerer. Oh, Naruto rubbed the back of his head as she scrunched inward a bit. No, seriously, that's fine. I guess I just got carried away. Mai couldn't believe he'd still give her the time of day if she deflected his help. Probably not so cool, huh? There's nothing wrong with wanting to live a normal life. It's not my job to control your life. No one can control your life except you. People help shape who we are, but, in the end, when the chips are down, only you can choose how your life. You just go along with something or fight against it. I want to become a special grade sorcerer. No, something bigger than that, Naruto said with a determined gaze as Mai's eyes widened at him. But that's the greatest title a sorcerer can have. Even among being clan head, being a special grade meant so much more than even that. It was a nearly impossible utopia that most sorcerers couldn't imagine. Yep, and I'm gonna train like nobody's business to be that and more, he said simply. Now she understood. The boy before her was clearly insane, like Maki. Mai looked down and thought, well, I guess it'd be nice for you to talk with Maki. She wants to be a sorcerer. There's nothing wrong with you being a sorcerer. Come on, being normal ain't too bad. I'm just a weirdo. All special grades are, I bet. Really? Oh, definitely. I'm sure my cousin and his friend could be special grades and they're the biggest weirdos I know. NRK. Geto and Satoru balked as Shoko laughed. Kushina smirked as Satoru held his heart, looking the most offended. That brat. NRK. I all of a sudden feel like I just got in trouble. Naruto's sweat dropped as Mai tilted her head. It was probably nothing important. The yell of indignation that rocked the universe simply didn't reach the blonde. Mai just raised a brow. Still, Naruto-kun, that's gonna be dangerous. Mai couldn't imagine what it took to become even a grade 1 sorcerer, much less a special grade. How would you even do it? So I got something but we can't say it yet, Naruto whispered seriously as her eyes widened. Yep, I can't tell ya, nobody yet. But once I'm good enough, it'll be out. Is it a cursed tool? Nope, but I do have one of those. He gestured to the item on his waist. I got it from my belated master. Mai winced as Naruto nodded with a solemn smile. I don't know anyone who died, and it's not like she'd feel much for most of those people. What about before that? Well, training. He raised his wrists before showing his ankles. These are weights. My master had me originally use some of his own kind before he passed. I recently got heavier ones, but I think they're defective. They don't really feel like much. Mai just observed him. I'm sure Maki would like some of those, she said with a blush. Sure, she could have some of my old set. NRK. Wow, Mei's sweat dropped as Kushina grinned nervously and Yutaheim shook her head. Is he that easy? Hey, hold on, Naruto-kun is just clueless. The boy's mother declared. I guess? Yutaheim began to say before shaking her head once more, that boy needs help if he's ever gonna find a wife. Satoru was just contemplative. Those weights work, he knew that much. So, how strong did he really become after gaining his positive energy? NRK. Mai just fiddled with her fingers some more as the two of them sat on the meditation stone. So, what do you want to do, Mai-chan? Naruto asked her with a curious look. Mai just looked at him with interest, brown eyes landing on his sole visible eye, and how it seemed so nice. How nice he was compared to her family members. How different he was compared to what she knew sorcerers to be. How he was nearly exactly like Maki but seemed so much more light-hearted, she thinks. Naruto just seemed nice and light for lack of a better word. Well. Mai burned up. I don't know yet, she lied, face colored red. I can't just say that to a boy I just met. That'd be the worst thing to do. Well, I'm sure you can find something. I know if I didn't want to be a sorcerer, I'd just be a martial artist, Naruto said, surprising her a bit. You've thought about not being a sorcerer? Yeah, I've thought about it. Especially because, well, it's not like there are back-to-back-to-back missions. One of our students literally just came back from a mission she was on for a month before she was supposed to be on vacation. A female sorcerer? Mai was surprised. Women weren't necessarily treated well in Jujutsu society due to old tradition of them being housewives and maids. It was painful at times, but Mai also didn't want to be a sorcerer, and if honestly asked, she did like to cook though. Mai wondered if she couldn't make more handsy food someday. Yep, I know quite a few, actually. Is your mom one? Kinda? NRK. Kushina's sweat dropped. To be fair, I haven't gone on a mission in years, so I'm less of a jujutsu sorcerer and more of a researcher. That honestly sounds interesting, Shoko said, tapping her chin in thought. The thing is, I feel like that should totally be something we should have. Like a jujutsu RD. Riko crossed her arms in thought. Does something like that exist, sensei? She asked Yutaheim before sweat dropping at the woman's soft snores. Yeah, she really needs some sleep. Anarche. Moments later, the two were walking around the lake, Naruto having Sage walk around with them. You can come out now, God. If you're just gonna keep on stalking me, I'd like to know why, Naruto said as they stopped walking. My shooting him a confused look. Let me see. You're that Naoya guy. There was a huff before someone appeared over the large stone outcropping that surrounded the area they were in. Naoya Zenin's eyes narrowed as Mai hid behind Naruto. I'd assume your senses likely have been increased, he said with a conflicted look. He's like Toji, well, not sporting the man's ridiculous strength, but Naruto was just a child. There was a high chance he'd gain such strength as he grew up. Most likely, Naruto said. So, what's up? You've been following us since we were on the stone. I guess you've got something to say? The guy rubbed the blonde the wrong way for a large number of reasons. Naoya frowned before his arms crossed. He observed the boy before looking at Mai, the girl shying behind the blonde. It'd be a slight against my clan. Allowing this little thing to bud wouldn't do them any good. But he was like Toji. I'm simply here to see what your claims to strength are. Not lying. Odd. Well, how? There are some members who have Shikigami that can contend with a grade 3 curse spirit. I'd like to call one of them here if only to observe your current skill set. Alright, Naruto grinned and Naoya nodded, raising his fingers to his mouth to whistle a sharp screech. Mai-chan, you're gonna have to stay by Sage, he whispered to the girl who stared at him in shock. Alright. Naruto blinked at another one of those guards that appeared, the man speaking to Naoya in hushed tones before he threw out his hands. A trio of Shikigami, a two-headed dog, a crow, and a floating umbrella, appeared moments later, the blonde's senses raised. He was telling the truth the whole way. These Shikigami weren't all that impressive, but the blonde couldn't take them for granted. With Sage standing by Mai behind him, the blonde considered taking off his weights before thinking otherwise, removing Ryubang off his back and allowing the weapon to extend to half his size. Naoya was surprised. That was a cursed tool, he said with a frown, leaning forward a bit while staring at it. It doesn't seem familiar. Perhaps it was an unknown kind? The boy had said this master of his had gifted it to him, hadn't he? Or was there another tool? The blonde held it aloft in one hand with a nod. So, which one am I fighting? Each of the Shikigami are, in a way, an internal grade within grade 3, the man who'd summoned them said. The umbrella one is the weakest of the three. So, the dog's the strongest? Yes. Give me the dog, Naruto said as he felt that particular Shikigami's cursed energy. It's the closest to grade 2, he'd get some kind of idea on his level. Very well, the man returned the other two Shikigami before stepping back, kneeling, and lowering his head. Naoya-sama. Naoya smirked a bit at Naruto's confidence. Okay, he is a bit more like him than I expected. What a nice surprise. If only Maki could do the opposite, life would be grand. This match will end when either one side is destroyed, Naoya said. The other can't continue. There's no time limit and I shall decide when enough is enough, Naruto-san. Alright, Naruto nodded at that, crouching low to the ground with his weapon held behind him. It's probably decently fast, he'd have to prepare his body. Then let the match. Naoya said before raising his arm. It dropped. Begin. The first thing Naruto did was rush the Shikigami. He's decently fast for his age, Naoya noted as the two-headed dog charged seconds after the boy did, and the Shikigami started second. The canine's form met the blonde's and they crashed together. No, Naruto's hand slammed out into the Shikigami's head, halting its charge with a grunt. His feet dug into the ground for a moment before the bottom of his staff slammed into the two-headed animal's neck. Jostling it, he pushed the stunned Shikigami back and up before aiming his Tanwa-sized staff. Yeah! The stab slammed into the spirit's chest before sending it flying back to hit the stone barrier, the creature bouncing off it before hitting the ground. Naoya clapped a bit at that, smirking as the Shikigami got up on its shaky paws. I see, the boy's strength wasn't small. A grade 3 curse could easily overcome an adult male, much more so a physically fit athlete. And the boy manhandled it, somewhat, an amount of strength no child could possibly have. The two-headed dog's spirit got up before beginning to stalk the blonde in a circle, the boy watching it all the while until it went behind him. Naruto's ears twitched as it came to a stop. He sidestepped the lunge at his back before tilting out the way of the cursed spirits. Follow-up slash with its claws. The two-headed canines attacked, tearing up the ground. They continued to play that game of cat and mouse. Naruto's eyes closed the entire time. So, this is a grade 3. It really didn't feel that complicated, but there might have been more to this than he knew, Naoya? Be real with me. The boy's palm found the Shikigami's throat before bringing it to the ground, flat on its back. How strong is a cursed spirit grade 3 to grade 2? Because this honestly doesn't feel that hard. Mai was just shocked as she held on to Sage's shoulder in a piggyback fashion. He beat it so easily. Maki couldn't do that. Was this really the difference between a boy and girl? They are usually one-to-one but not always. Aokun isn't exactly great at replicating their pure strength, Naoya said matter-of-factly, the man who'd summoned the Shikigami not disagreeing in the slightest. So, these might only be that powerful in cursed energy, not so much physical might. Naruto nodded to that. Well, I mean, this fight's basically over, he told the son of Nabito who hummed. It'd be for the best to exorcise it. Naruto sighed, and his weapon jammed its way through the Shikigami's chest, hitting its core somewhat. The dog vanished, his summoner sighing a bit. Sorry, dude, he apologized to the man. Alright, that was interesting, the blonde said before two figures landed by the group. Impressive, Nabito said as he and Minato observed the latter's son, a grade 3 Shikigami, though not as perfect in the hands of Ao, is still a decent feat, boy. Minato just smiled. My son's determined, trust me, he's going to be a big deal one of these days. We shall see, huh? Anarche. Mai watched as the two blondes left alongside her uncle and cousin. That boy's quite something, Nabito said with a gleam in his eye as he shot a look at the staring into the distance Mai. There's no way that'd work. While he might not care, the rest of the clan would. Whatever happened in her case, it wasn't his business. Naoya was more intrigued by Naruto's possibilities. He's only 7. I don't know what Toji-kun was like by his age, he'd have to check. Mai just felt like the world grew a bit colder as she watched Naruto go. See, come back soon, she said in her head as the boy and his father disappeared. Naruto-kun. Anarche. They returned to the Jujutsu High campus quickly enough, Naruto's thoughts on the Zenin clan apparent. I seriously hope they take my words to heart, he said. I can't make a promise that they did, Minato admitted, ruffling his son's head of hair. But your words weren't wrong. I've considered Tengen-sama's situation a couple times with Kushina before. Nothing like solutions, but I've observed it. Oh yeah? What do you think? I think his position, while important, is dangerous. Naruto blinked before nodding after a couple seconds. The very fact Tengen-sama needs a merger is already concerning. Satoru-kun was born with both powers of your clan as well, and now there's you, Naruto. I don't know, but I believe that the future's a bit worrying. Naruto understood what he meant. Well, all we can do is become as great as can be. I know I'll do my best, Dad. I know, you're special in more ways than one. They opened the door to the dormitories where Naruto was besieged by most of their female compatriots. What happened? Mei asked him with a star in her eye, Naruto beginning to sweat. And nothing. Oh, Naruto-kun, Shoko chuckled from beside a smirking Satoru and chuckling Geto. You're so clueless sometimes. Yeah, Naruto admitted. Anarche. 1 year later. Geto rubbed his hair out of his face, cleaning off in the showers. They're progressing well, he thought about his students with a sort of somber smile. Naruto, Megumi, and even the not really into it Tsumaki were growing well into the arts of jujutsu they'd chosen to partake in, with the girl only really caring about normal life but albeit bonding with her brother. Tsumaki hadn't done much in the arts but did understand them, almost beyond well. With no curse technique in her name, Tsumaki still commanded an amazing knowledge of their side to help her brother and Naruto. The girl even went as far as to accept working in talismans to make charms that'd give the two protection. In that regard, who else but Minato to handle her studies? And that spoke well, as Tsumaki seemed well versed in being able to cast curtains, barrier talismans, and Shikigami, her lacking aggressive nature possibly being some form of foreshadowing to these skills. She's only a child and yet she's so bright, he chuckled a bit. Megumi, meanwhile, had been applying his body, mind, and energy to training with divine dogs to the utmost, Naruto suggesting something that'd help the boy immensely. Even with that, the two would practice fake exorcisms, as in, Megumi would summon his future Shikigami to tame, and the two would fight them so, even if the ritual would be null and void due to another's involvement, Megumi could gain some manner of insight on the creatures and their requirements. It was downright ingenious and had no lack of praise thrown Naruto's way. The fact remained, though, the two wished to get strong in the meantime to face such a challenge. And last but certainly not least, was their little positive boy, Naruto Uzumaki. Being honest, Naruto's positive energy control hadn't really become a thing yet, the boy doing simple things like physical training, studying much to his chagrin, applying sage well, and learning from Yaga. Yes, that wasn't to be understated, it'd be a secret that likely went to the two's graves, but Yaga had deemed the blonde worthy of learning his secrets, at least the big one, corpse puppet creation. It had been something Yaga only told him, Satoru, Shoko, and Naruto. This was a secret that not one of the five would reveal, and they'd all been willing to accept a binding vow. The way Yaga's face had contorted on that fact. Geto doesn't think he'd ever seen such a look of relaxation. The man had probably been carrying on this weight for a long time. It made Naruto's efforts so fantastical because, in this 1 year, he'd made one. The blonde had made another Shikigami corpse puppet for himself. He's the one with the most ridiculous nature, Geto thought. Turning off the shower, Satoru's growing as well. His friend's ability to auto-reflect items on a danger scale had provided no end to his own genius, and was one of the reasons he'd become a special grade. Geto himself had been given the title due to the sheer number of curses at his disposal and his ability to manipulate them. So why do I feel like this? With their new titles, he and Satoru had begun taking solo missions. Exorcise, consume, swallow. How many times had he done that in the past year alone? Geto wasn't sure. That disgusting sensation of an old rag filled with vomit made him, even now, want to hurl. And then the monkeys. Those filthy non-sorcerers, he couldn't. His own words from a year or so back made him feel an intense amount of shame, guilt, and self-hatred. What was wrong with him? Anarchy. He found himself sitting in a small outpost of Jujutsu High, an area where a road of sorts led down the mountain and towards normal civilization. Wearing a white shirt and black pants with sandals, Geto leaned back on a bench, his hair out of its usual neat bun. What's going to happen to me? He didn't know, or even a hint of the answer. I'm not. Geto's eyes closed. He thought about those three, the ones who seemed to understand him in ways that made life somehow feel a bit more worth living. Satoru, Shoko, Naruto. The three had somehow kept him sane, the first and third the most. My life's gotten weird, he chuckled humorlessly. I've let a child teach me wisdom that I might have sorely needed. Senpai? Came a voice from one of the entrances, Geto blinking as he turned his head to see a grinning young man. Senpai. Geto smiled a bit at another change that had taken place recently. He'd begun to mentor this young man, a second year at Jujutsu High, who'd been a help with another first year, Kento Nanami, for their big mission with Riko. He was tall with fair skin, big black eyes, and a slightly glossy black bow-cut haircut, wearing a pair of dress shoes, black slacks, a white shirt, and an open black jacket. He walked over with a big grin that had Geto smiling a bit. Afternoon, Geto-senpai. Hibara, how was your last mission? Geto asked him. Oh. It went well. Though, it was a week ago, sir. The thing is, I've got another mission coming up tomorrow. Geto was surprised before remembering what time of the year it was and smirked. Oh. Hibara chuckled in embarrassment. It's almost time to be promoted, grade 2 sorcerer to be you, Hibara. The younger man blushed but looked excited by the idea. I hope so. He grinned again and Geto chuckled. It's supposed to be a faraway assignment. Apparently it's due to some religious area. Geto's eyes widened for a moment before he swallowed his horror. Why yeah? Did the superior say anything weird about it? Nope, the older student sighed in relief. It's apparently a grade 2 cursed spirit that's been eating followers of the area. They seem to think that the two of us should be enough since me and Kento are semi-grade 2s. It shouldn't be too hard then. Nanami-kun's been getting more precise and you have been learning how to apply your reinforcement better. The cursed spirit user wore a relieved smile. You'll be great. Geto's eyes lowered a bit. But don't be too gung-ho, alright? Yes, sir, though, Geto-senpai. I've been meaning to ask, are you alright? I sometimes get tired of it, you know? Geto admitted. Are you tired of being a sorcerer, Hibara-kun? Hibara blinked at him, Geto rubbing the back of his head, before he grinned. The way I see it is that if I can give my all in every way that I can, it'll be a great feeling no matter what. Hibara said with a thumbs up and incredible smile. Geto snorted. Of course, what else did I expect? He smirked before sitting up, and you can come out. Now you've been listening in, I bet you've been waiting for your perfect chance to cut in? Well, I guess you're special grade for a reason. A woman said as she strutted on in before hitting a pose. Tell me, Geto-kun. Hibara-kun. What kind of women do you like? Silence reigned supreme as Geto's eyebrow twitched in disbelief. I like girls with healthy appetites. Hibara answered as Geto stumbled in disbelief. Hibara. She doesn't seem like a bad person, the younger male said. I mean, I'd say I'm an amazing judge of character. Geto's eyebrow rose at that, a sardonic smile forming on his face. Present company included? Of course. The odd woman who'd arrived laughed as Geto rolled his eyes before patting his student on the back. All right, I guess she wanted to talk to me, Hibara-kun, Geto told his fellow student who nodded, getting up and bowing to the two. Have a nice talk. He told them before hurrying off. I've got a bag to pack. He's a good kid, the woman declared, allowing Geto to give her his full attention. Name's Yuki Tsukumo, one of us 3 special grade sorcerers, she grinned with a wink. She was tall, even if she was wearing light tan platform boots, with tight white jeans, a sleeveless black turtleneck, and a black biker jacket thrown over her shoulder by one hand. Her complexion was white and her eyes blue, her light-colored hair long and parting by her forehead to give her a pair of asymmetrical bangs on the sides of her face down to her cheeks. Geto realized who she was moments later. You're the what? She grinned smugly. The no-good sorcerer who doesn't take missions. NRK, Jujutsu High Training Field. Naruto had been going through some staff forms with Megumi, the boy using a wooden staff as his own weapon. I think it went like this, Megumi tried. He held his spear firmly before bringing his back foot in towards his forward on, and then sliding forward with that leg. The thrust was textbook and a bit shaky, but Naruto was nodding all the while. Yep, he grinned. Divine dogs currently training with Sage a bit away near a sitting Shoko, the now 19-year-old woman reading a medical textbook. You're getting this down, Megu. Thanks, the other boy smiled a bit. Still, I want to know how to use a lot of weapons, he told Naruto, who nodded. We'll ask the others if they're down for some weapons training, Geto bro? Naruto began to say, nodding in determination before blinking as a pair of people came into the clearing. Huh? Who's this? He asked, gaining Shoko's attention. Wait. Aren't you Yuki Tsukumo? The doctor to be asked in disbelief as Yuki grinned a bit, Geto rolling his eyes at her reaction. What the heck? Well, I guess since Geto and Satoru are special grades now, I'd bet you guys just wanted to meet. Ooh, a sharp one, Yuki chuckled, looking over the area to find Naruto and Megumi staring at her in matching dark blue hakama and shirts. Hello, boys, she grinned before trotting on over as Shoko got up and followed suit. She reached Geto as Yuki did Naruto and Megumi. Yo, what the hell is going on? Shoko asked him as he rubbed the back of his head. Ideas? There's a concept that Yuki wanted to talk to Naruto about, he explained. She doesn't know about his true powers, but his heavenly restriction is important to her. Shoko raised a brow. With Naruto, the boy raised a brow at the woman with Megumi. You want to study my heavenly restriction? I mean, I don't mind, but how would you even do that? Well, it's more like a long-term observation. If anything, I'd also like to meet your cousin to see if he wouldn't mind helping out, Yuki said with a grin, crouching to the boy's level. Still, it is nice to meet you, golden boy. Yeah, Naruto had begun to say, only to freeze you. What? You need to be careful of the underside of the Jujutsu world, Yuki said as Geto and Shoko flinched. Things for you might be getting troubling, she explained, one eye closed. There are rumors about a certain group on the lookout for the Goja Black Sheep. How? Geto grimaced. We checked every single one of their hideouts, destroyed them, and we still couldn't find that leader. Yep, and he's around, Yuki explained with a frown as Naruto followed suit. Your nice big Nachan, right here, has been following them because I thought it was curious, and that led me to a sorcerer who could give divinations. Turns out, that person is now dead. Shoko looked down with an intense look. So, that leads out. Geto cupped his chin. Yuki-san, what exactly did you hear about Naruto? If we know, it'd make our lives easier. So they'd begun to make their moves again? The Time Vessel Association. All the gossip is about some big money on his head. Megumi grimaced. They want him badly and they're paying some serious yen to get him. But, as luck would have it, she smirked, I handled it pretty easily. How? Naruto asked with crossed arms. How could you? Duh, I took it, she said like it was the easiest thing in the world. the boys stumbling in disbelief. You don't seem to know it, but special grade isn't some small thing that is just important inside the school. Huh? Megumi blinked. What do you mean? What did his friend's cousin's title have to do with this? The thing is, the Jujutsu world sees special grade in a big light. It's not wrong to say, having the title of special grade essentially makes you a big-time celebrity and hotshot. With that, I could basically hog the entire quest to myself. But that's where the oddness continues. Yuki frowned. They put a time limit on it. What? Geto stared in disbelief. Yeah, but that's all I know. The time limit is 9 years from now, Yuki grimaced. In 2018 on October 31st, Halloween, the significance wasn't lost on anyone there, especially not Geto. One of the many days where cursed spirit manifestation was at an all-time high, right up there with Christmas or, somehow hilariously worse, Valentine's Day. Truly, no sorcerer was more overworked than on the day love was made and viciously broken. Something's going to happen on that day, Yuki told them. I don't think it's wrong to think that way. We just need to figure out what to do when that day comes. Still, what happens after that? Megumi asked. Aniki's bounty will get lifted? He asked hopefully. I don't think they're going to care for secrecy at that point, Geto admitted, sighing at Megumi's downtrodden look. I know, Megumi-kun, but we have to be prepared for the real possibilities. He's right, Megu. Naruto ruffled the similar height boy's head of hair. Besides, we don't know how strong I'll be by that point, and if I'm guessing right, they know something about me will be vital for that day. That's why they want me. They want to keep me to themselves. Megumi blinked, considering his words. For now, I guess we don't have to worry about those guys, the blonde continued. We have to get strong enough to protect our world, as big a scheme as that might sound. Humph, well, aren't you a planner? Yuki giggled a bit before grinning. Alright then, how about this? She offered the group, standing back up. I'm sure Satoru-kun is training you with Geto-kun, but I can offer you a type of training you seem capable of, Shikigami training. Huh? Megumi perked up. What do you mean? The thing is, there are still paths to greatness through the methods we have today, Yuki explained. Shikigami, talismans, cursed energy manipulation, cursed techniques, maximum techniques, domain expansion, barriers, and more. There are many of us big shots who can handle the pinnacle of some forms of these. I'm not sure where I stand on the Shikigami usage scale, but I'd say I'm pretty good at it. How do we do this? Naruto asked with determination. There's one easy thing you need to do to learn how to make better Shikigami, she whispered to them. I never told the higher-ups because we're on bad terms, but right now, there's a dying tree in Japan that could help you, the Vak tree, a tree of life shaman spirits that is said to be guarded by the Shikigami of an old shaman. The thing is, well, I don't know where it is. It's said that it used to be the stuff the golden era of Jujutsu used to make their talismans and Shikigami. Geto cupped his chin. But then how would he find it? He asked. Sadly, that's part of his training. He has to find it, but I can give you a hint, she said. Shikigami most attuned to the land are said to be some of the best when it comes to finding natural landmarks of Jujutsu. Right now, you need to. Oh, that's perfect then, Naruto grinned as she stared at him. No, well, I think me and Rikone-chan will have to do it since she's harboring Kurama. Huh? Naruto-kun? Shoko blinked at the boy who rubbed the back of his head. What do you mean? Oh. You mean that new one you made? Okay, so, do you guys remember what I told you about how my sensing works? Geto's eyes narrowed in thought. You sense life. His eyes widened as Naruto grinned. Not just life but nature. I can sense trees, animals, the waters, and so on. Well, not all of that so clearly, but I can feel it. My sensory skills were never really jujutsu-based but nature-based, he explained as Yuki's eyebrows shot into her hairline, and my first ever Shikigami, Kurama, could enhance my natural senses. That's what that golden energy was, natural energy. What? Are you implying there's another energy in the world only you can access? Yuki asked him, crouching back to his level. Well, yeah, Naruto said. The thing is, the natural energy of the world is tainted with the cursed energy of every living being. The moment I try to pull it in, I'm essentially pulling in cursed energy? Shoko looked confuzzled. And what happens? Nothing, Naruto shrugged as she sweat dropped. I couldn't do anything with it before the thing with the star plasma vessel happened, and trying to do it now is like trying to suck thick syrup through a straw. I feel everything that energy comes from, the emotions, the origin, and who it comes from. Yuki's eyes narrowed in interest. Naruto-kun, I think you are the best one for this job, she grinned wickedly. Perhaps, if you find the tree in time, you'll be able to make a Shikigami on par with the Divine General itself, she chuckled before standing back up. Alright. Oh goodness, I should really have you meet Tadoko-kun, he'd get along well with you, she smirked. Tadu? Megumi asked. He sounds weird, he pouted. Oh, like you'd never believe. The boy's sweat dropped. Anarchy. One day later, the following day, with everyone there in Hibara Kento on their mission, the rest of their inner circle was filled in. Yudahime looked shocked but intrigued along with Yaga and Minato. Kushina hummed curiously with Kawa and Minato. Mei looked excited by the prospect for worrying reasons. And Satoru, well, the hell? So you're gonna look for a tree? He asked with a flat expression as Naruto shrugged. Naru, it's a tree. Yep, but if it helps when it comes to my Shikigami, I have to at least look into it, Naruto said, considering Yuki's words. Right now, despite how much time she gave us, we now have to worry about Halloween in 9 years. That's far off but way too serious to ignore. It's certainly not good timing, Minato said. Around that time, you'll be 17. Yep, it seems like this might be an odd undertaking, Naruto-kun, Yaga said. If you're going to do that, when? Naruto considered the question with a frown. I don't know, maybe I'll do it a couple years before I'm in Jujutsu High. So around when you're 13? Tsumiki asked. At 14 maybe? She offered. He shrugged. All I know is, right now, I gotta pick this time carefully. Maybe Yukina'll come back and I can see if she has a good idea. For now, more training. It's almost time for me and Megumi to go and learn about his to-be shadows. Megumi nodded, the boy's eyes focused. I think it's time that you two got to taste a bit more of the sorcerer life, Satoru said after some consideration. Honestly, with Haim-chan around, you might want to follow her on a hunt before she's a teacher for the rest of her life, said woman's eyebrow twitched at his emphasis. And what's that supposed to mean, Goju? The man looked to be considering his answer. Come on, we both know why. God freaking, the woman's temple throbbed. Ignore him, you're coming with me, Naruto-kun. Satoru pouted and she didn't look the least bit bothered. Mean, Anarchy. Zenin Estate. One day later, Naruto hurried over to the Zenin Estate with a grin. This is gonna be a far-off mission. He need to tell Mai about not being able to be here for a week. Naruto hurried up the steps before finding a familiar pair of girls there. Mai-chan! Maki-chan! The boy greeted with a grin, landing on the step platform with a nod. Naruto-kun! Mai grinned back with a sly look while Maki crossed her arms with a tilt of the head. I thought you'd be here tomorrow? She tilted her head with a smile as he rubbed the back of his head. What? Couldn't wait to see me? She asked teasingly as her sister shot her a look of disbelief that had her giggling. You're not that cute, Naruto said without remorse as her jaw dropped and Maki started laughing. Gotta mind that ego. Lord knows where it's going, he added with a smirk as Mai pouted at him. She stomped over before poking him in the chest constantly, still pouty. Ma'am, Maki began to wheeze. Alright. Oh gracious beautiful times 10 goddess Mai, Naruto said dramatically as she blushed before mumbling. I'm just here to tell you guys I won't be here for a week. Huh? Why? She asked as Maki wiped a tear from her eye. Why? She asked with a grin as Mai muttered unpleasant things beneath her breath. Don't be rude now, Maki teased. Naruto chuckled. I'm going on a mission with Yudahime-chan tomorrow and it's supposed to be a long-term trip, he said, so for now, I'm not gonna be here early tomorrow morning, just letting you know. Yeah, well, see come back safe, she muttered that last bit, confusing the blonde. Huh? Nothing, knucklehead, what are you doing now? She huffed, getting a shaky grin out of the blonde. Nothing really, I figured I'd fill ya in before I left. Alright then, come on, we're playing ghost game. The blonde allowed her to pull him along. Anything for a friend. Anarchy. 3 days later, Mai spent the first 3 days of her friend going away just doing her chores and relaxing on the meditation stone. I wonder what he'll fight. Mai didn't want to be a sorcerer but that didn't mean she wasn't curious. I bet Maki would have wanted to go with him. Every time, it's like you don't get it. Mai flinched, skin dropping in color before she scrambled to her feet before hurrying off. No. Oh God, let it not be what she thought it was. She rounded the corner behind the main clan building and froze. No, that's right, God wasn't listening right now. He couldn't be if she was currently seeing her sister being essentially bullied by their cousin. You should remember that you're the woman of the house, Naoya said with a huff, taking his shoe off Maki's head and walking off. All these pathetic things you're doing? They're going to stop, Maki. Mai flinched as the teen passed her by. You're doing the right thing, Mai, Naoya said without even looking at her. Don't forget your place. With that, he left, leaving her scrambling over to her sister. Trembling hands reached out for Maki and her twin sister looked at her with a weak but resolute stare. That bastard, Maki trembled as she pushed herself up to her knees, gasping for breath, face bruised, lip bloody, and eyes full of hate. I'm going. Please stop talking. To kick his ass. Please stop getting hurt. Mai bit her lip as she helped her twin sister to her feet before acting as her crutch, leading her to that familiar clinic of the Zenin estate. Please stop fighting against your fate. An image of a grinning resolute blonde reached her mind and Mai's tears fell silently behind her sister's back. Only those blessed could do that. NRK. A day later, Maki grimaced as Oji stood with his back to her, Mai sitting right beside her with her head down. Every time, why? You're a woman of the Zenin clan. You know your roles yet you refuse to cease. The man looked angrier than usual. Every time, I let you have these fantasies, these little foolish dreams, and I am made a fool of. Oji's shoulders tensed. Do not make me lower my head once more, Maki, lest you feel your father's wrath. Maki didn't flinch. Her head fell but it didn't tremble with fear. No, Mai knew more than anyone else that it trembled with disgust, anger, hatred for their own kin. Mai had felt it before, numerous times, seeing her sister like this, beaten down, verbally tossed around, and utterly made to be pacified had done numerous things to the girl's psyche. But then it all fell away, not because of some nonsense like hatred is meaningless but because it was all meaningless. They'd never get anywhere like this, being defiant, angry, hateful? It wasn't worth the beatings, the words, the pain, and just the shame. Mai knew she'd long since given up on those kinds of things. She'd be a housewife and hopefully leave this horrible place. Maki could too. It's not like their fates aligned with much else. NRK. 4 days later, when Naruto returned, Mai had to hold her tongue with a bandage on his cheek and the wrappings around his left bicep. Hehe. I went in too deep and got surrounded by some cursed spirits, he'd told her, looking apologetic, like he'd wronged her. It made her angry for reasons Mai hadn't understood at such a young age. She'd left him without a word that day and kept her silence no matter how much it pained her. To do this to her friend, to hold in these feelings about Maki, to see that lost look on his face that likely meant he thought he'd done something wrong. She couldn't deal with it that day, and yet it was the very next day she'd learned that a sorcerer, a young one of Jujutsu High's own, had died. Apparently, he'd been the student of one of her friend's mentors. She hadn't seen Naruto for a couple weeks after that. NRK. A month later, the news broke like wildfire. No one could have predicted it. No one could have seen it even being possible. But it happened. One of their very few special grades, Geto Suguru, had taken a human life. No, not one life but many, over 100 lives. The cause? Unknown. The reason unknown. His statements? Unknown. All Mai knew was that, at that very moment, her blonde friend was probably torn up on the inside, but she couldn't, as she didn't deserve to see him. She didn't want him angry at her like all the other males in her life. She knew he'd be upset because she was ignoring him for no reason. Her father, cousins, and uncles had been right. She was stupid, she was dumb and pathetic. Mai wallowed in her emotions until the day came to an end. NRK. Naruto and Satoru stared at Yaga as he broke the news to them. What? You're joking. Satoru couldn't believe this. This all had to be some kind of sick joke. Naruto wasn't much better, the blonde looking terrified. Was it Hibara? Was that it? Had that pushed Geto over the edge? What the fuck happened? Yaga couldn't hold a neutral face, fists clenched, eyes slammed shut, and head down. I don't know any more than you do, he told them, and the younger man flinched, head looking down and away from his teacher's disheartened gaze. I don't know what happened. NRK. They'd left Jujutsu High almost a minute later, Naruto and Satoru leaping across rooftops with only the words of Yaga left whispering in their minds. I don't. Only you two can find out what really happened. I'm no use here. That look on his face made their heart tighten. This had to be solvable. There had to be something that was wrong. Something that forced their friend's hand into killing people. NRK. They'd found him in under 4 hours. Naruto-kun, Geto said with a small smile as Naruto shot him a miserable look. The two in a forest. I want to say I'm surprised. I do. You told Satoru the location of the cursed spirit I released but not me. He spoke as the two of them sat on a tree branch. Geto bro. What the hell happened? Naruto had to ask. This? The killing? The mission? What went wrong when you had to take all of their lives? The older male closed his eyes and thought. They were unnecessary, Naruto-kun. The area was silent as Naruto stared at him in disbelief. What? The world doesn't need all of these non-sorcerers, Geto continued without letting the boy get a word in. These people, they're sickening, they don't know the consequences of their actions. They'll follow things like religion, dreams, and goals even if it causes mayhem in the end. Rico, bro, this isn't about. That's why the world only needs Jujutsu sorcerers. Naruto wheezed at Geto's resolute expression, the man's relaxed look causing a wrench to turn in the blonde's heart. I finally realized that I wasn't prepared to just give my everything to these people. They don't care about the lives that are lost in their wake. They just keep on moving every day, thinking only about what others are thinking, speaking like them, just copying the next human. In the end, Geto said, they're all just monkeys. He grinned brightly and brilliantly. It made Naruto sick that this was his true feelings on the matter. Your family as well? I have more than just non-sorcerer parents. It'd be hypocritical of me to not kill them. So, what did you feel when you did? Naruto asked him, I shaded by his bangs but his gaze locking onto Geto's closed-eyed frown. Did you feel right? Did it all of a sudden feel good to just kill people for no reason? There is a reason. What reason? The area rumbled with a power that couldn't be tapped into, not yet. Not right now, but damn if it wasn't spilling at the seams. Those people didn't need to die. You stained your hands, your very soul. For what? 2 girls' lives, Geto said softly as the boy froze, the man looking up at his expression with a searching look. Tell me, Naruto-kun, if faced with their lives and those people's, would you really be able to choose? Yes. I'm sure I knew your answer. Geto sat up and leaned forward, eyes searching the blonde's visible one for something. You believe in the good in people. You don't believe in bloodshed that, in your eyes, is avoidable. You want to right the wrongs without having to go too far. But I can't, he told him with a small, sad smile. Naruto-kun, the world has broken me and I need to fix what's broken. And killing people is going to fix what's broken? Naruto asked him, already standing on the branch they were on. Every innocent man, woman, and child, you're going to kill them? And tell me, oh so great Geto, what exactly did they do that tells you should kill them? Nothing at all, it's unfortunate. Naruto's body twinged. They didn't ask for this. Something was holding on by a thread, but it needs to be done. The harsh smack hadn't been unexpected. Hell, Geto's head had barely turned to the side. Even now, he began as Naruto's slowly becoming vertical pupil came into view. You really are one of the kindest people I've ever met. I'm going to stop you, the blonde said with a grimace, hands clawing up before they froze and went limp. I'm going to stop you, so is Aniki. We'll all stop you, not because it's just wrong, not because it's to save people. Naruto pointed at Geto's face with an eye that glowed with power untapped. We're going to stop you because we won't let you bloody your hands again. We'll stop you because you don't deserve to fall into darkness alone. God damn it all, we're gonna stop you because we're family. Geto finished for him, the whisper coming from a smiling mouth. I know. I'll go and find Satoru now. I'm sure he's waiting for you to be finished. The raging aura of cursed energy could have been felt by anyone, the origin coming from a roof nearby. I, myself, wish things could have been different, but I would have gone mad. Geto grinned, unless I have already. He vanished, a shadow shooting overhead and taking the broken man to his friend, likely for one last time as an ally. Up above it all, Satoru found himself at his wit's end. No noise, no people, no distractions could reach the two of them up here at his command, and yet he felt like he was further away from Geto than ever before. Impossible! He answered that last bit of nonsense. A world where only sorcerers live. Are you serious? Don't try to make an impossible thing like that a goal to kill people. Impossible? Geto frowned. I guess this would be your arrogance. Satoru frowned. You and Naruto would be perfectly capable of creating a world in which my ideals would be possible. Naruto's powers, as they grow, will likely change the landscape of the world itself. And then there's you. Are my ideals an impossibility? Or is it simply because I'm not as strong as you? Satoru stared at him, confused. Geto turned away from his friend. You all were like a second family to me, and I know for a fact that Naruto was at the center of all of that. He smiled. Goodbye, Satoru. Whether you kill me now or not is also fate. Satoru's raised hands flinched as Geto got on a familiar manta ray spirit. It went off and into the horizon in a few moments, leaving the greatest sorcerer alive trembling for a bit, Naruto's form landing on the roof moments later. Come on, let's go home. NRK. Their return hadn't been quick, the two not wanting to arrive to the confused if not crestfallen eyes and words so readily. So, they'd instead hit up a hotel for the day and would go back in the morning. Sitting on his bed after a nice shower, Naruto wore a white bathrobe while drying his hair with a towel. This went so badly, he didn't want to think about it. He'd failed someone doing the exact same thing Sasuke had, and not only once but twice. Toji and now Geto. What the hell was with his luck this time around? He spends his entire ninja career stopping one friend from being left alone, and now he was in this situation. And Aniki's probably so hurt. Naruto sighed at that, done with his rubbing but letting his towel sit on his head. God, this bullshit got out of hand without us being able to do anything. Yeah, Satoru said as he exited the bathroom in his own bathrobe, a towel around his shoulders and one on his head. Fucking, Naru, I want to tell you so much that this isn't what it is but dash. Aniki, I know, you're probably taking this the worst of all of us, Naruto said, stopping the man from ripping his own hair out. I don't know what Geto Bro's trying to do, this is crazy. He's clearly gone a bit insane because this is insane. He even knows that he's doing it for his own selfish desires, but he's still gonna do it? Satoru grimaced before grumbling as he walked over and sat on the blonde's bedside. This entire thing got so out of hand, he flopped back as Naruto sat cross-legged in the middle of his comforters. What happened? He didn't say anything, he didn't even try to talk to you, and we all know that Geto talks to you when he's feeling philosophical. Naruto nodded to that, frowning. I think it had something to do with Hybra, he said softly. Satoru froze, eyes widening before he shot up with a grimace. I didn't. Fuck, but just that. There's gotta be something else, the boy said with his eyes on his palms. Something happened. I don't know what it is, but there had to be something. Satoru frowned at that, leaning back down. No, it hadn't been then, had it? He shot back up with a pale face, Naruto looking confused. During the summer. I thought he was losing weight, but he said it was fine. Ugh. The Goju clan head slammed his hands into his face before flopping back. That's gotta be it. Wait, what happened that summer? Naruto blinked. I was gone for like half of it. What could have changed? We became special grades, remember? Then, we began to go on solo missions. Naruto frowned before remembering some of his own words from when he spoke to Nobito. Was he lonely? He wondered as Satoru groaned. Sorry, Aniki, but that's all I can think of. I guess going solo wasn't something he liked doing. Or maybe, Satoru frowned. Ha, he sighed before just dropping into the bed. Damn it, Naruto agreed. Damn it indeed. NRK. A day later, entering through the torii gates of Tokyo Jujutsu High, Naruto spent barely a few minutes walking in before being besieged by a series of individuals. You're the guys from the Zenin estate, Naruto realized as one of the members came forward before brandishing a scroll. He frowned. Satoru and Naruto read the item for a few moments before wearing grimaces. Zenin-sama is looking to meet with you too, now. NRK. Zenin estate. Watching the two be escorted to the main clan building, Mai froze, looking a bit pale. The look on Naruto's face wasn't one she knew too often. A look of failure and annoyance. The boy didn't look on the verge of tears, but he looked a bit darker than he usually was. What happened? I guess things didn't work out, Maki said with a frown as the two of them watched the Goju duo enter the main clan building. What in the world is happening? I don't understand. Mai was the same. This all felt like things had taken a steep sharp turn. NRK. Standing before Nobito Zenin, Naoya Zenin, and Oji Zenin, Naruto had a feeling this wouldn't be a great conversation. Zenin-san, Satoru spoke first, taking the lead. Don't ruin this for Naruto. That was basically the main goal here. Satoru couldn't fail two people again, it wouldn't end well. Why did you hide the fact that Megumi Fushiguro was on the campus? Nobito asked with not a pleased expression but neither an unhappy one. Just neutral, likely something that meant he was on the fence. Satoru considered his words. Because he didn't want to be known by the Zenin clan, Naruto answered, sitting down directly in front of the Zenin head. We went to find him after some words from Toji Zenin about his kids being left alone. Not fully true, but it wasn't wrong. Toji had essentially entrusted their safety to him and Satoru. Naruto couldn't say otherwise. Satoru considered his cousin before doing as he had, Nobito's eyes processing the two. Likely the mission didn't end well. Not to say he cared, but Nobito wasn't a fool. They were still reeling, likely having to do this conversation wasn't helping them. He couldn't find it in him to give a damn, though. Things were now in an odd space that needed clearing out. You didn't know, I'd suppose, the old man said then. You both should know, Megumi Fushiguro was promised to the Zenin clan due to a contract based on his blood. But he's dead, Satoru said without a frown as Naoya frowned. So, that contract is effectively null and void. You didn't pay him, obviously, and his kids aren't exactly aware of this contract. Oji and Naoya didn't look bothered, the two seeming rather apathetic to this news. It's Toji's son. Naoya didn't know how to feel. On one hand, this boy was simply unimportant, not like he'd be more than, if he was strong enough, a Hei member. Still, this was Toji's son and Naoya felt obligated to ensure the boy lived long enough to attempt to live up to his father's power. The boy's worthless, Oji thought with a huff. Their words aren't wrong, Naobito-sama. Naobito considered it, but there was something there. Has the boy's curse technique manifested? Naruto and Satoru's expressions were unreadable as they looked at one another. Yes, they said in unison, back straight it has. An energy filled the room, one that alarmed Naoya and Oji. Naobito closed his eyes and crossed his arms. You know for sure what it is, don't you? Yeah, we do, Satoru said. What is it? Naoya asked. Why are you hesitant? He asked his father with a frown. If it's what I think it is, Naobito's eyes opened. You two will probably be unwilling to part with Megumi Shounen. Megumi, he doesn't care. You know what I mean, Naruto said. He knows the entire deal of our big three. He just wants to make his sister, Tsumaki-chan, happy. That girl? Oji frowned. Why would she be so important to this? She'd be blessed to work in the Zenin clan. The look Naruto shot him, the look of disappointment, had Oji grimacing. That, for sure, is gonna be a big NO from him, that attitude? Megumi would sooner kill himself than try to follow it. Oji's face contorted in anger that Naruto didn't care about. That visible eye of his shot the father of two a look that'd deny any argument. No offense, Gigi. But even if we were to just tell him to go, he'd never do it, Naruto said with a steely gaze. He's not gonna want a damn thing to do with your family if this is how it is. Naobito hummed as Oji grimaced while Naoya frowned. That's not for you to decide, Naruto-kun, the second youngest in the room said. You're probably right, but, at the same time, Megumi had no choice in the contract in the first place. The boy deserves to choose the life he wants, Satoru said as Naoya wore a conflicted expression. Besides, he's still going to be a sorcerer. We're training him. That's how we learned of this betrayal, Oji said as Naobito hummed. It should have been told to us that the Fushiguro child was on the premises. And then we just have this conversation but with an uncomfortable Megumi in the mix, Naruto said. The point does stand that the boy knows about us and Toji's connection. Has that not invited some form of interest? Naruto and Satoru shot one another a look. No, seriously, they said as Oji blinked in confusion. Megakun only really cares about his sister, taking care of her, and making her happy as Nera said. Hell, she's the same way back, Satoru said, outside of training. The only interest he really has is in seeing how it can progress. So it's true, the boy had the coveted 10 shadows, damn it all. So Toji dying wasn't to our benefit. Naobito could concede that point. The man being alive was better in the long run, but now that was, as these two said, null and void. I can assume you had a binding vow, Gigi, Naruto said, and the man shrugged. Couldn't. The man's lack of cursed energy made that utterly impossible, Naobito said, minding the boy's look of acceptance without a hint of surprise. Aha, I guess you got comfortable. So this child and Toji were close somehow. His eyes went to Naruto's wrists, what were clearly metal black bands jogging his memory a bit. My word, he barely kept his reaction in check. The bastard was training him. Those shackles were similar to the ones Toji would wear around the time he was in the Zenin clan, personally made here to lower his ridiculous strength and speed, and the boy had them. That's rough, Naruto said with sincerity, and the old sorcerer really wondered if this was why Toji had grown attached to the boy. This sincerity was surprising to the old man, especially with the current touchy topic. Who could so easily put that aside to speak with such emotion yet still look willing to argue the previous point in an instant? They're training him. Likely both of them. Call it a hunch. There was another contract I'd have to inform you of that isn't dead yet though. The four others looked surprised, but none more than Naruto, who was the target Naobito's gaze. Alright, you want to tell me specifically, don't you? The boy said as Naobito nodded. Naoya stared at his father in disbelief. What is it? There was something odd about this. Why did Naruto seem to gain some odd favor from his father? Should we leave? It'd be prudent of you all, Nobito said as Oji grimaced but got up regardless. I got this, Aniki, Naruto told Satoru. I have a feeling this is gonna be a secret that won't be passed between anyone else, he added as the Goja head hummed before nodding. This is yours, I'm sure, the man said before getting up and leaving with the three. You best mind those fingers, Nobito-san, Satoru said without a hint of heat or venom. But the air seemed to vibrate for a mere moment, the man not even stopping to issue the threat, really cementing a fact that had been the reason he was a special grade. Nobito smirked a bit as the other three left. Honestly, I wouldn't mind trying to trade blows with the supposed best of your generation, he said to Naruto, who chuckled. Well, he's the best of his generation, maybe. The blonde grinned as the old man laughed with an intense stare. Oh, surely, how could I forget? Truly, these kids would be something to be feared. They were those types, the ones who'd either become utter fools or truly stand atop the world. He looked forward to it. So, what was it about Megumi you wanted to talk about? Naruto asked curiously. NRK. Floating a centimeter above the water of the Zenin clan's lakefront, Satoru focused under the intense stares of Mai and Maki. You're that guy, Maki said with a squint-eyed look, Satoru grinning a bit as he turned around clockwise before floating upside down. Show off, she pouted as he chuckled. I am that guy, he said with a grin as Mai barely held back her smirk but her eyes danced with amusement. What's up, gal pals? Maki blinked. Maybe it's just a Goja thing, she muttered as he raised a brow while Mai wore a nervous look. You're Naruto's cousin. I am that. Do you know what's been up with him recently? Satoru blinked. They can't mean about him. So, this was something before all of this. Wah! He began to say only for his gaze to go to Mai. The girl's look of misery but pleading had him cupping his chin. What? Maki asked. Well, sorry, that's probably my fault, Satoru said, righting himself before rubbing the back of his head as Mai wore a look of, well, not relief, but guilt. Something had likely happened between those two that Satoru might need to ask about. Oh, I guess he was too busy. Maki looked a bit out while Mai sighed. He used to train with us a lot but he kind of vanished. No, seriously, was this what Naruto had been doing? Once again, sorry, you see, he grinned a bit. Naru's gonna go and find a tree. I know how that sounds, he quickly said at Maki's raised brow. Even Mai looked confused. He's gotta do it to improve his 2 Shikigami. 2? Mai's eyes widened. I thought he only had one. He made a new one after stern training. I'm pretty sure he would have told you guys that you could try that stuff. Ugh, he did, Maki groaned as Satoru snickered. I just can't. I'm not allowed to, she grit her teeth as the special grade Snickers died and left a frown in their place. Of course, we literally just spoke of this. That was gonna be rough for her, sorry, even if I have no idea what it's like for you. It's whatever, Naruto typically just makes us work out while Mai tries to use her cursed energy to keep up, she grinned as her sister pouted. She got a lot better too. Maybe, Mai admitted. Playing with Naruto was always so physically intensive that he told her she could use cursed energy reinforcement to keep up at any time. Thank God he had, because trying to match her sister and him physically was a pain in the ass. But it had results. Worryingly, she got a bit better at it over the year of their friendship and even had a little fun with it on her own when she wasn't busy with chores. Well, I can tell your control is around the same level as Megumi's, Satoru said. He's a boy we've been taking care of with his sister and training with over the past couple of months. God, are boys that good at this? Maki asked with a groan. Nah, Mega's been training almost every day for the time he's been here. That wouldn't be fair to you. Maki could maybe accept that. Still, can you talk to Naruto? It'd be nice to not have to deal with this damn house every now and then. I'll look into it, Satoru said with a smile as the boy in question came out of the main clan house and walked over to them. Mai froze before hurrying off. I'm gonna go and do some chores. Satoru's jaw dropped a bit while Maki groaned. I don't want to think about that, she said, but her eyes locked onto Naruto's approach. The boy didn't look harmed or bothered, just curious, and it all fell away into surprise as he saw her. Huh? Maki-chan? Naruto said before hurrying over. It's been nearly a month and a half. She's just been wondering when your tree search would give you time to place, Satoru said with a fake grin. Okay, how to manage this situation? Naruto observed him as Maki nodded. You haven't been around. I guess this tree's pretty big business, she said to him. You ever gonna come around, though? She asked. Naruto considered the entire situation. Sure, God, Maki-chan, right now we've gotta deal with some news. He frowned as Satoru's expression became neutral, the girl blinking in surprise. What is he? Her eyes widened and she grimaced a bit, holding her arm. Oh, yeah, it might be a bit, sorry. We just have to deal with all of this, Naruto admitted to her. I understand, not fully, but Maki could read him pretty well. If the normally excitable and energetic Naruto was looking so reserved, the situation with Geto Suguru was probably bad, very, very bad. Take care, alright? I will, thanks, Maki-chan. They left moments after that, the two Gojas disappearing from sight down the staircases away from the Zenin estate. From afar, Mai watched with a conflicted expression before slinking off. NRK, Tokyo Jujutsu High Dormitories. The news had been received as one would have expected. Yudaheim looked down along with Yaga, Kurwa, and Riko. Minato grimaced at the very idea of it all. It's Obito all over again. But this time it wasn't due to the machinations of a man and he chose this. Mei sighed as Shoko's fists clenched. Her fellow students grinned shaky and fake. I guess this is what he chose, she said, but her voice wobbled, her chest trembled, and the two were quickly sitting down against the walls where she scrunched in on herself. Goddammit. Oh, Tsumaki looked down with a shaky breath. Jigeto-sensei, she whispered, hugging a small rabbit shikigami. Her shikigami. Megumi grimaced as divine dogs looked at him with concern, nuzzling the boy's shins. Kushina sighed, hugging Satoru from behind. You two were right to tell us, she said. You shouldn't be suffering with this alone. Satoru's fists clenched before they slackened, Naruto's shoulders held by Yudaheim. Yeah, they said in unison, we know. For now, we'll use the week to rest, Minato said, and time to accept what's happened, alright? We will. NRK. 3 days later, Naruto laid down on his futon in a pair of green shorts and a white shirt with a toad on it. Lacking his usual wrappings, his two eyes stared at the ceiling in thought. He raised his hand and stared at it. If I'd had my powers, could I have done anything? He wanted to say yes, he did so much. But like with Sasuke, all the power he could have maybe mustered would have meant nothing because it wasn't the problem. People were complex and sensitive. This was something that had likely bothered Geto for some time. Maybe around since the summer, so maybe for a few months. A month right before his birthday, what a present. Damn it, he groaned, not giving the opening door to his room much attention. Hey Megumi, Tsumaki-chan. And Naruto-kun. Naruto blinked before sitting up in shock, turning his head to see none other than Mai standing there along with Maki, Megumi, and Tsumaki. Hey! The girl whispered, looking uncomfortable and concerned. NRK. Sitting in the forests outside of his old home, Naruto rubbed the back of his head. We haven't seen you in a while, Tsumaki told him. Wearing a white shirt and long black skirt, the girl's shikigami hopping up to him before sitting on his shoulder. Yeah, I'm sorry, Naruto said to them all, Maki shooting him a look. You're not like yourself, she said as Mai fiddled with her fingers, the two in their usual clothes. No wonder that guy had to call us. You're usually the one who does this, Maki grumbled as Naruto blinked. That guy? Dressed in their training uniform, Megumi cringed. Goju-sensei, Megumi said, getting a bit of a wince out of the blonde who looked guilty. No, don't do that, we hate it when you're like this, the boy admitted, looking down as divine dogs sat at the sides of the children, shooting Naruto pleading looks. Naruto didn't want that. His precious people should be happy and not like this because of him of all people. I'm sorry, I didn't want you all to feel like this. Naruto sighed as his eyes roamed over the group. His and Mai's gazes caught the girl biting her lip, mouthing something he blinked at. I need to do something, the blonde said as Tsumaki blinked before smiling a bit. Yeah, I'm not good at staying in the dumps if you guys are willing to go out of your way to tell me. I probably should have known better since that's the case. Why, you're allowed to be unhappy, too, sometimes, Megumi muttered with a bit of a pout before Naruto grinned. It's just better when you're not. I'm glad you care, I do, the blonde said before closing his eyes and crossing his arms. I've been in the dumps long enough, that's the thing I need to accept. I shouldn't spend a week moping when I can be doing something to never let this situation happen again, Naruto declared, eyes opened and revealing a determined expression. I just need to do something to bring everyone else's spirits up. Really? Tsumaki blinked before smiling brightly as Naruto grinned. Yep, someone's gotta help him. Might as well be me, and, well, he blushed before grumbling. I might have an idea, but after I talk to Mai-chan about something. Now a couple feet away, with Sage now out and about to chat with the others, Naruto and Mai sat by the back of a tree, out of sight of the others. What's going on, Mai-chan? He asked her gently, the girl pulling up her knees and allowing her forehead to fall between them. Does it have to do with what's been going on between us for the past month? The girl scrunched in further before nodding. Did something happen, Mai-chan? She slowly lifted her head so he could see her grimace. I was just angry. I doubt it. Naruto frowned as she flinched. I know how the Zenin clan runs things, Mai-chan. I literally had to talk with your uncle about this and why Megumi wouldn't want to join. Huh? The girl stared at him in shock before Naruto blinked before gasping and chuckling sheepishly. What do you mean? Well, Megumi is the son of a guy by the name of Toji Zenin. She choked as he nodded. Yeah, but he changed his name to Fushiguro due to falling in love and having Megumi. That guy. He's dead now. Unfortunately, and since he essentially left it up to me and Aniki, we chose to help Megumi and his sister. Mai was floored. That sounds crazy, she said as he nodded. It's the truth. She considered his words before sighing. Yes, it's because of my family. Mai's head flopped back between her knees while her hand grabbed his. Naruto blinked before closing his eyes, allowing her to grab his hand as much as she could. Mai intertwined their fingers before letting out a shuddering sigh. They sat there for a few seconds, the girl applying different bits and kinds of pressure to their handhold. After the 10-second mark, she released him and stuffed her steaming face into her knees. Naruto just chuckled a bit and she grumbled. Sorry, she said to him, face bright red and expression a bit disheartened. I wasn't a great friend. We all have those kinds of days. I wasn't exactly being a great friend recently, either. Naruto smiled for her, and she pouted. Why can't you just let her be sorry? Be angry? Why did he have to make her happy? Was it something he liked doing? Or was it all his charm? Mai feared the answer with a red face. Whatever. What about your idea? Naruto blushed before moaning, confusing her. Well, let's go back to the others. This is probably gonna be the worst for me above all of us. NRK. 2 days later, Satoru had chosen to spend the 5th day of his personal self-isolation just walking around. Wearing some baggy black clothes and black sandals, he aimlessly trekked along a path by the dormitories, mind elsewhere until he came to an odd sight after going further in. Yudahime sitting by a small pond, one that he knew held a few fish she'd personally brought. Sitting in a black t-shirt, shorts, and brown sandals, he raised a brow at her now unpigtailed hair currently laying down her back. He blinked behind his blindfold before pulling the item down to allow him to see her fully. She hummed a small tune that he blinked at, finding it to be a song from an anime he was sure she didn't watch. Butterfly. He sat down by a tree near her, dampening his movements with Limitless, and just listened to an alternate version of a rather somber upbeat song he realized he might have needed to listen to, crazily enough. I'll probably buy an MP3 soon, it'd probably help, still, He looked at Yudahime as she kept humming that tune. By the end of it, she sighed, likely still taken a hold of by their recent betrayal. Then there was a beep from their phones, the woman's form flinching as her head turned to see him. He rubbed the back of his head as she blushed a soft pink that fascinated him before he focused on his phone. The moment he'd pulled it out, he'd seen a notification from Naruto. A video? Satoru blinked before opening it up, wondering what it was. SNRT, he snorted a bit as she blinked, pulling out her phone in an instant and looking at. Yudahime's eyes shined at the kids trying their best to play instruments and sing along with them. Satoru snickered as he listened in, eyes turning to see. The sacred eyes of the Goju clan widened at the giggling woman's own bright set, Yudahime's demure posture but brilliant expression getting a silent wheeze out of him. Whoa! He turned back around ASAP. Oh, okay, nothing crazy, she's just giggling at the video. He thought in a higher octave. God, this was weird. NRK. The next day, Naruto kept slamming his head into a pillow as Kushina started laughing with the others, the other kids looking embarrassed as well. It was a good song. Yudahime smiled as the boy groaned. Why yeah, well, Naruto groaned before putting his pillow down. I gotta keep the energy, he admitted as they all blinked in surprise, despite what just happened. I needed to do my job to make sure my precious people were doing fine. I wasn't doing that until my pals kinda woke me up. He nodded to himself. What happened with Ghetto sucked. That's the truth, but we can't just dwell on being sad and stuff. It's fine at times, but we've gotta take these experiences and keep moving on. I'm not sure what he's thinking, but I will find him, and when I do, I'm gonna beat his pretty boy face into the dirt until he can give me a good reason for all of this. Satoru's eyebrows shot into his hairline, eyes wide behind his blindfold before rubbing the back of his neck while Minato smiled proudly. Yaga crossed his arms before nodding. You're right, doing nothing but delving into despair isn't right, he admitted as Kurwa smiled brightly. And well, he began as the others looked at him, and the maid. You all might like to know that Kurwa is pregnant, the caretaker said as Yaga covered his face. The entire room's jaws dropped. What? They shouted in unison as Satoru stumbled in disbelief. Huh! He gawked as the women crowded the proud Kurwa. What? Well, that certainly worked well, Naruto said with a look of surprise. Huh? You think he's gonna make panda before or after this kid? Who? Oh right, you'll learn about it in a month. Satoru was left flabbergasted as Megumi blinked before smiling a bit while Tsumiki giggled. Maki huffed, looking a bit, not inspired but certainly electrified, while Mai just seemed happy, like she'd complained about before. Naruto seemed to just have that effect on her. A boy who sought the happiness of others and did his damnedest to ensure it flourished. Yeah, she kinda got it now. Alright, Naruto said as he pulled Ryubang out from behind him and expanded it, Sage's talisman at the ready in his other hand. Let's do this, Megumi. The 10 Shadows user nodded, his divine dogs at his sides and ready for combat as well. Why yeah, Megumi nodded, a black scimitar curse tool held in Shiro's mouth, ready to fight. I think it's the snake? Seems so. You ready, Maki-chan? The girl in question nodded, grinning as she held an odd long knife that held fur and bandages around the guard and base of the blade. Yes, she said with a look of excitement. God, it's so much better outside of that damn estate. Mai smiled nervously at that, standing behind the three with a familiar pair of blue talismans in her hands. Oh God, she swallowed. The 4 children had worn similar outfits composed of blue hakama and untucked shitagis, the 4's feet covered by ninja sandals as Naruto called them, with Maki wearing some odd curse tool glasses that allowed her to see cursed spirits and shikigami. The 4 were prepared as the adults and older teens stood outside of a small circle in a field they'd taken for this ritual. It'll be fine, Naruto said with a nod. Anything comes up, let me know. I've got you, the 9-year-old said with a smile before looking at Megumi. Alright, let's do this. Megumi took in a deep breath before forming the right-hand puppet. Hebe! He called out as his shadow expanded before shooting off ahead of him, expanding once more before releasing a long serpent with white scales, yellow eyes, and a red symbol on its forehead. Oh! The 4 kids kept looking up as the snake kept going before finally leaving the shadow it had been summoned by and landing in a coil that caused the floor to rumble. Outside of divine dogs, the shikigami from 10 Shadows would not adjust to the summoner's experience level and would be as strong as it was supposed to be during the ritual to exorcise it. So, the giant snake's good amount of cursed energy wasn't exactly small to most of those there. It's decently strong, Megumi, Naruto said as he summoned Sage a second later, the Oni's form landing in front of him, and now wielding a small shikigami hammer that the blonde had helped make for him. Now, let's see how this goes. Megumi retrieved his cursed tool from Shiro before nodding with determination as Mai swallowed and Maki hummed. The snake roared at them, throwing out a powerful shockwave that threw back most of their hair. Hold on! Naruto told them as he stomped down, crushing the floor beneath the foot and securing his position. It's only some yelling. Mai held on to Maki as the girl did as the blonde had, her twin sister barely able to reinforce herself with cursed energy. Megumi stabbed his weapon into the floor while reinforcing himself, divine dogs bracing themselves by crouching. The others stood on the sidelines with interest. Just a roar, but it's probably physically powerful, Minato said with a hum, his falcon shikigami surveying the situation from above with a flock of crows under Mei's control. Honestly, it'll be a good addition to his arsenal when he can subdue it on his own. By the time the roar ended, the 4 children unbraced themselves before Naruto and Maki led the first charge. The blonde got there first before jumping up with Sage, the Oni grabbing his arm and throwing the blonde even higher before he caught Maki midair. They spun before Sage sent her slamming into the snake's body, her cursed tool, Slaughter Demon, piercing the serpent's flesh. The shikigami began to uncoil and swing its body at the ground only before Naruto's weapon slammed into its head. It flinched back, stunned, while Maki unlatched Slaughter Demon before jumping back to allow Megumi to attack with his blade. A slice at the spot of her puncture only widened the wound a slight bit before Sage quickly grabbed the two and got away, the snake slamming its head down and crushing the floor around it. Naruto landed moments later before spinning up and over a tail swipe, Ryubang swinging out to barely block the follow-up swing before he was sent flying. The blonde recovered in time to see Maki and Megumi rushing past him before both divine dogs circled and lunged at the snake's back. The large Shikigami roared again, repelling the four before its upper half began to swing around. "Jump!" Naruto ordered, rushing towards Mai before sweeping her off her feet. He and the others jumped, dodging the snake's club-like rotation attack. "It probably does have cursed energy-enhanced muscles for a snake," Kushina said. "It's fast, too." The large Shikigami's form snapped out to try and grab Megumi midair only for the two dog Shikigami to latch onto its neck with their jaws and claws. The snake flinched before writhing around and throwing its length around to slam into the floor constantly. Megumi released the dogs before they could be crushed, landing and grimacing as he began to run around with Maki. "Its hide is so tough," he said as she nodded. "Slaughter Demon's good at getting past it," Maki said as they skid to a stop as the snake stopped slamming, Naruto rushing towards it with Sage. "It's fast, strong, and durable." "I guess Naruto was right. This would be a good Shikigami to have." Megumi nodded before performing the divine dog's hand puppet. The pups returned, howling in preparation, just in time to catch Sage uppercutting the big Shikigami, sending its head flying back before Naruto used his Shikigami's shoulder as a jumping pad. He changed Ryubang into its hammer form and wound back. The blow sent the snake's head right back into the ground, its lower half twitching as the boy landed on its body. "Hit him hard," Naruto said, rushing down the length of the Shikigami's body before jumping high and bringing his hammer down, Sage right behind him. An explosion of grass and dirt sent a rumble through the ground before throwing up a dust cloud. The latter two came sliding out moments later as Maki, Mai, Megumi, and the divine dogs grouped up by them. "It's still alive," Megumi said as the group watched the snake's form twitch before its head began to raise. "You, Sage, and Maki can hurt it while I can't really do it. You need to imbue the blade, Megu," Naruto told him as the boy groaned. "I can't really. I'm no good at that yet." Mai hesitated before grabbing it. "I'll like this." Her cursed energy flowed out over the blade, the pitch-black weapon's form soon being covered in a blue film with black borders. "Wo," Megumi said in awe as Mai blushed at Naruto's thumbs up and grin. "Thanks, Nei-chan." She blushed once more before huffing and wearing a slightly haughty look that Maki rolled her eyes at. "I've gotta teach you to handle that better," Maki said with a grin as Megumi nodded. "Alright, this shouldn't be too bad," she declared as Mai did the same for her weapon. They fought to the last drop. Watching the kids fight had been interesting, if not amusing, especially when it came to their roles. "A support type," Yudahime said as she observed Mai doing her best to dodge while supplying Megumi and Maki with energy-enhanced curse tools, and she's a good evader. "Anyone in support should be able to do that, we believe," Minato said as Kushina nodded. "As the support, medical or otherwise, you're going to be vital. In their current fight, she literally gives them the ability to harm his Shikigami. That's valuable," the silver-haired woman said. "That will obviously change with time, but so will she if she pursues this path." They kept going, the children going in and out of curling limbs and clamping jaws, Naruto and Sage working double time to ensure that last action was avoided. "Maki's clearly full on offense," Minato said, for obvious reasons. Then, Megumi's offensive utility, Satoru said as one of the boy in question's wolf Shikigami grabbed his weapon before slashing at the snake with a lunge, quickly slipping out of danger compared to his summoner, and his Shikigami allows him longer reach. Their final combatant, Naruto, called out more orders, plans, and movements, the blonde at the front of them all. He parried with Sage, evaded while carrying the others out of danger, and attacked with blows that did the most damage. "And in time, Naruto will be an all-rounder," Shoko said, combing her hands through her getting longer hair, Sumiki nodding rapidly next to her. "Once he's truly able to use his full abilities, he'll literally be invaluable wherever he goes, no matter what he's doing or therefore." "That front's been a bit interesting," Riko said, gaining their attention. A year older and stronger, the girl's height had become something curious, the 17-year-old stature putting her at 5 feet 10 inches. A sharp shot up compared to her previous 5 feet 4 inches frame from just a year back. With shorter chin-length hair and her usual yellow bandana in it that helped hide her fox ears, she was a bit more mature compared to who she used to be. "I can feel it through Kurama's core," she continued, Naruto's powers are slowly unfurling the first skill, we just don't know when. Satoru raised his blindfold, squinted his eyes, and made an offended sound before pulling it back down, much to Yudahime and Riko's amusement. Ah. That's painful. So, it automatically deflects you? Yudahime asked. I didn't know positive energy could deflect cursed techniques before all of this, she said, looking to Shoko for answers. It's not something I'm capable of, but I do remember a rumor about one of the big Shikigami of the 10 Shadows, Shoko began, the 8-handled sword Divergent Sila Divine General, Maharaga. He wields the Sword of Extermination, a positive energy-enhanced blade that allows it to deflect cursed techniques. Seriously? Riko's jaw dropped as Satoru whistled. Still, you'd have to see the technique coming. That's not something a normal person could do, he said. I mean, I probably could, but I can't wield positive energy like that. Naruto, meanwhile, can't see curse techniques like I can but can deflect them with positive energy. Probably, Satoru explained, templing his hands together and wiggling some of the jutting out fingers. In a way, it balances us out. Having the ability to deflect cursed techniques would be kinda crazy even to me. I guess even you have a limit, Yudahime said, but even on some level, Naruto's positive energy reflexively reflects. No? If that's the case, perhaps he'll be immune to smaller curse techniques or even techniques of a certain category? It's likely, Shoko said as the kids kept going after the snake Shikigami, only bruises and cuts being their biggest injuries. In the future, maybe Naruto-kun will look into it and use the Divine General as a concept for a new way to improve. For now, he's gotta grow and actually unlock his skill set. There was a thunderous rumble before the floor beneath their feet shook a bit, the event ending in a couple seconds. Looking back at the kids, they found Naruto and Maki cheering as Megumi sat on his rear with Mai, looking drained. Beneath them, the defeated snake Shikigami hissed weakly, form falling away into shadows and allowing the cheering duo to land on shaky feet. We did it! Naruto declared, covered in the most wounds of the 4 of them. Sage coming over and knocking knuckles with his master. Nice. Maki just looked excited all the way through, rubbing some sweat off her forehead and sporting a few cuts in her clothes but nothing more. That was an exorcism, she said in awe, core welling with warmth and pride. And it only took us, 4 kids, we could be an amazing exorcism team. I don't mind, Naruto chuckled as the 2 of them hurried over to help their other teammates. How are you guys feeling? Why yeah, I know I'm not for this, Mai wheezed as her sister smirked a bit. Shut up. I ain't a fighter. But you move like one, Maki said with a smile as the others hurried over. You could dodge all that stuff. Mai blushed, looking embarrassed and worried. It's because of all of our games, she muttered as Megumi tilted his head. Games? He asked Naruto. Yep, we'd usually be playing, essentially, Super Tag, the blonde snickered. How's it going, Snake Slayers? Satoru called with a grin as Maki smirked. Naruto chuckled, Mai blushed some more, and Megumi hummed, truly, you all are blessed with great teammates. Covering all your bases is extremely important, you know? You all work together wonderfully. Yudahime smiled. You're all gifted in your own ways. It'll be a pleasure to watch you all grow into marvelous sorcerers, she praised. The 4 looking embarrassed but pleased for the most part. Mai just wished to keep this bit about her private from her family members. NRK. Half a year later, Naruto blinked as Yaga and Kowa showed the group 2 children, one a pale baby boy with black fuzz for hair, and the other a panda. No, they weren't kidding. Meet Panda-kun, Yaga said as Kowa giggled a bit, and Kuro-kuma Mazumichi. Oh my god, Satoru held his face as Naruto laughed. Why you put bear in his name? Of course. Damn it, sensei. Kowa smirked as the 2 were marveled at. Panda is a bit special before anyone goes crazy and asks, did you give birth to a panda? She shot Shoko and Riko a look. The 2 women cleared their throats, not looking at her at all. Right, Panda-kun's situation is rather, well, secret. Yep, Naruto said with a smile as he rubbed Panda's cheek, the panda bear cub with a pacifier looking pleased. And well, he's certainly not gonna have it easy, but your godfather is here, you two. Naruto Uzumaki never lets you down, hopefully. Hold on. WN? Mai balked. It was before they were born. Kowa chuckled as Riko gasped. You're basically their sister. You don't need god-anything in front of your relationship. Oh! He. Riko giggled nervously as Kowa chuckled. Obviously, you know? I wasn't gonna ask something crazy like that. Riko. I wasn't! Satoru stared at Panda the panda. I'm a goduncle to a panda. I don't even know what's going on anymore, he said as Yudaheim's sweat dropped, in an act of unity. I have no idea either, she said with a nervous smile. Well, if even you can't respond, that means I'm not crazy, most of the time. Kushina shot the two a flat look while Minato chuckled. God, it's so easy, she face-bombed. Yes, let them take their time, her husband said. NRK. Half a year later, Zenin Estate. Mai sat back-to-back with her blonde friend, eyes looking out at the horizon. Hey, Naruto-kun? Yeah? Well. Mai struggled with her words. It's nothing. Whenever you want to talk, I promise, I'm here, he told her, and she sighed before adjusting herself onto his back, nodding against his shoulder blades. I know. NRK. A year later, now 11 years old, Naruto sat in a meditation stance atop a small stone plate atop a spire of earth. Satoru floated by him, upside down, with a hand cupping his chin. Is this part of the positivity thing? He'd asked as Naruto chuckled. Probably not. He offered him. This just helps me put my body's energies at peace, I guess? I'm slowing them all down and just becoming one with nature, Naruto said. As if summoned, birds flew on by before landing on his shoulders, Satoru huffing at that. Come to me, birds, he commanded regally. They looked at him like he was the weird one. Animals of the world. I am blessed. He shouted and they kept on staring. God, even the animals won't respect me. Ugh, I'm gonna go and pick on Megumi. Naruto laughed at that. NRK. The blonde grinned as he helped Panda eat in his lap, sitting with the others in the mess hall. Kurwa did the same for Kuro, the brothers in name eating healthily. So, how many more years? Megumi asked his blonde friend, the boy ruffling some of his hair. And I need a haircut. Oh, you can just style it, Megumi, Mei said with a smile as he blinked. No thank you. It's around 2.5. I'll give it that much, Naruto said as Panda raised his arms in cheer. I've been sending Fujin out to survey the world with the help of Mayne-chan's crows, so far. Nothing big, but they did have to exorcise a curse here or there. The fact you two made exorcism androids isn't weird or anything. Kushina chuckled. So, I am curious, Naru, what do you plan on making if you can find the Vac tree? Naruto already knew, among all else, there were two things he wanted amongst all else. Well, I want to do two specific things, the blonde boy began. 1. I want to update Sage and Fujin. I spoke about it with Dad and Yaga-sensei. I don't want to make any more Shikigami and focus on those two. Huh? Tsumaki blinked. But you just said two things. Yep, Naruto grinned. That's gonna be a big surprise if I'm able to make it work. What I want is a positivity talisman. A talisman that runs on positive energy that can do something only I can do. Oh? Minato perked up. I'm gonna need your expertise to the max, Pops. This is probably gonna be super annoying, but I know I want this as my big thing. I want to try and make this while also making it a maximum technique. Oh, I didn't expect that, Shoko said, but in cases like us, I can't imagine it wouldn't be the best way to use it, especially because your method is based around making positive energy. You'd be pushing that innate skill to a new level. I just wonder what kind of effect you'll gain by doing it. NRK. Christmas time, Zenin Estate. Wearing an orange haori, a yellow long-sleeved top, black sweatpants, and some black shinobi sandals, Naruto walked up to the steps of the Zenin Estate before cresting the last step to see the area quickly covered in slow-falling snow. He breathed out into the winter air, white fog slowly slipping up into the sky. It's been 3 years since that day, Naruto considered with a soft hum, eyes closed as he allowed the world around him to sweep him away for a couple seconds. Things haven't changed that much, but it's like things are coming to a head for no reason. In 2 years' time, he'd be going on his trek to find the Vac tree, hopefully. I should probably come back before I have to go in. Normally, one would enter Jujutsu High at 15, but entering at 16 wasn't unheard of. If I did that, I'd be entering around the time Maki-chan would. They'd be second years together by the time Megumi would join. Naruto smiled a bit, walking onto the wooden pathways of the estate, steps unbothered by the build-up of slight snow and sleet. The world welcomed him easily and without issue. This wasn't that hard. Finding the house of the Zenin twins had been just as simple, having been there before. As he made it up to the modest-looking home, the door opened before he was even 4 meters away. Oji Zenin left the home without a word to him or his house. The man's more insulated-looking clothing and scarf enough of an indication he felt the cold. Naruto shrugged, getting closer to the open door only to find a familiar pair of girls there. Sup, Mai-chan, Maki-chan, Naruto grinned as the girls nodded to him. Maki was wearing a dark green kimono with red spider lilies on it while Mai was in a completely black one with golden leaf motifs on the hem and cuffs, a yellow sash, and a small golden bag. We're ready! Mai grinned as a small Shikigami came out of the house and handed the twin sisters scarves and purses. She was around the size of a large dog at the shoulders, bipedal, and female in form. The small Oni woman was also wearing a pure black kimono with a floating cloth hovering around her shoulders. Thank you, Inazuma-chan, Mai said with a smile as Maki nodded. Thanks, Saina, the glasses-wearing twin said as the two tied the warm items around their necks. Alright, let's go. Naruto chuckled but nodded, leading the way out of the estate without issue. The Shikigami bowed to the trio, her wild white hair with red lightning-like marks shifting as she did. Making it towards the entrance of the estate, Naruto hummed, "How's Inazuma-chan holding up? I know it's nice to have more help, huh?" He smiled as Mai blushed before nodding, Maki shrugging. Honestly? It was probably a good idea, the glasses wearer said. Aina helps with chores and is a decent secret sparring partner. Naruto hid his frown at that, simply leading the way as he considered the Zenin situation. He, sadly, still didn't know the truth of it, but he knew it was sexist. Thankfully, nothing crazy like aggression had been forced on them, but with Maki's headstrong personality, he feared for the worst. Still, that wasn't important right now, for now, they had to meet up with the others. NRK, Harayuku. Megumi looked around at the crowds of people, wearing a blue haori over a black kimono and his own black ninja sandals, with his sister at his side, wearing a yellow coat over a pink kimono and her own little ninja sandals. The two of them walked alongside Naruto, Mai, and Maki as Satoru and Yudahime walked behind them, wearing a white haori over some baggy black clothes and dark brown shoes. The man allowed his eyes to roam free while doing his best to not look at Naruto or Yudahime. He didn't know what was wrong with him, but nowadays looking at the older sorcerer made him feel awkward. Satoru snuck a peek anyway at the smiling woman before grumbling to himself. Wearing a rather elegant purple kimono with flowing red vines coming up from the bottom with some straw sandals, the woman had released her hair again, put on some light red lipstick, had a black scarf hanging down the sides of her neck, and had a parasol. No, you heard him right. Yudahime had dressed to the nines and he feared why he noticed so damn much. What should we do first? Yudahime asked the group with another smile. Let's get our fortune. Mai said with an excited look. Then, we'll go to the main square to see the lights. Maybe we'll get some taiyaki or crepes, Satoru said, crossing his arms. Oh right, you're not a fan of those, he added, shooting Yudahime as normal of a look as he could. No, but I can do it for the children, she said with a shrug. I'm not a fan, but I can live with some sweet foods. They followed Naruto's nose, the boy leading the way to a stand where they found not just taiyaki but dango, crepes, and honey peanuts. Satoru chuckled before ordering for the group. Seconds later, Yudahime blinked as they walked down the street, an order of those odd peanuts in her hands, parasol tucked between her armpit and shoulder. With the kids eating their own set of sweets, she took out one of those roasted honey-crusted nuts and plucked it into her mouth. They are beer nuts, ah. She considered the flavors before noting exactly how much sweetness was actually on them. Oh, she perked up as they walked, smiling a bit. It's not a lot. Really? She heard at her side before a man's long slender fingers plucked a single peanut from her bag. Hey. Satoru grinned before plucking his stolen treat into his mouth. Oh, that's nice. I don't drink, but I can see why that'd be nice. Yudahime huffed before considering his words. So, even though you're now 21? I could have drank way before this, but it'd get in the way of my infinity, he said, tapping his noggin. My automatic method needs my brain at its best at all times. The woman tilted her head at him, considering him. Is that not straining you? Thankfully, with a constant influx of reverse curse technique, I can keep my brain eternally fresh and constantly acute. Yudahime looked surprised by that. Wait, I thought it was the normal skill of my clan's skills, yeah? She blushed a bit, looking embarrassed. Crystal blue eyes zoomed in without thought. Oh crap. Stop. His eyes snapped back ahead of him in horror. Yeah, that's my skill at work, he added with a shaking grin. I see, despite your age, you really are the best sorcerer our generation will ever produce, Yudahime said after some thought, eyes ahead and mouth curved a bit into a smile. I can give you that much. He blushed and felt horrified. Yeah, well, it's sometimes difficult. You know, Satoru added, eyes closed as his face contorted into a somber expression, gaining her attention. I mean, special grade is great, I guess. It was odd, but Yudahime felt no arrogance, no joy from him, not even a bit of curiosity at the moment. No, she just knew he felt like it might not have been as great a thing as it could have been. Her eyes went ahead to the chatting kids. Sometimes I wonder if you being all the way up there does get in the way of how you'd view things, Yudahime began as he sighed a bit. But it never felt like it, not fully. I always wondered a bit. Since you like saying it all the time. Satoru flinched, and she smirked at him. Do you know what being weak means? There was silence between them as a pair of fireworks went up, gaining the kids' attention. You never seem to have those moments outside of one case. She smiled as she gestured to Naruto, the boy currently telling his friends the way of Christmas. Naruto and Kushina kept you grounded. They were the reason you never truly took off, if you will. Satoru knew this to be true amongst all else. They helped, probably in ways I can't even imagine. When I look at that kid, I can't help but see the future I'm sure will come about. Satoru sighed. I have all the power in the world. I'm the head of one of the biggest clans, and I pretty much have almost everything I could ever want. Yet being with Naruto, talking with him, training with him. Auntie, uncle, you, Yaga-sensei, everyone else, he wore a look that her eyes latched onto, a look of vulnerability. Something that would likely never exist had the man before her not had a specific loved one. It feels weird. I get anxious sometimes. I don't know what'll happen to them and that. The man looked hesitant and concerned. She wore a somber smile. You love them immensely. There's nothing wrong with that. I could do without it making me feel like they're hanging on a thread. Sometimes, it's just that complicated, Yudahime responded. I don't really have relatives. You probably didn't know. So it might seem weird coming from me, but I think that's the chance you take with relationships. I guess you'd get that a lot. She blinked at his words, looking at him in confusion. You've helped how many students? Her eyes widened and she blushed again, the sight colored by fireworks. He stared dead on this time, and Yudahime's cheeks reddened some more before she looked away with an embarrassed expression. Satoru's chest thundered rapidly. Anarchy. Naruto raised a brow as they all sat down in a rather full cafe, eyes switching between Yudahime and Satoru. The man looked oddly focused while the woman looked shy and embarrassed. Mai snickered next to him as Maki blinked. Tsumiki grinned while Megumi rubbed the back of his head. Adulthood's so weird, the four other kids thought. Naruto hummed before leaning next to Mai. How sure are you? The girl smirked. Pretty sure. My senses in this kind of stuff are always right on the money when it comes to dramas. Mai grinned. In fact, I bet they're gonna go through so many emotional trials. Ugh, sounds hard. Naruto groaned as she giggled some more. But well, nothing worth it is gonna be easy. He ruffled his hair with an embarrassed grin. That's how these kinds of things are, after all. Mai drank some water with a blush, eyes going to the blonde next to her while the others stared at her now in disbelief. Maki shook her head. This is ridiculous, she whispered to Tsumiki, who giggled. All's fair in love and war. She grinned mischievously as Maki snorted. Megumi just tilted his head. Girls are weird, he mumbled. Anarchy. 1 year later, Naruto, Mai, Maki, Megumi, and Satoru stood in front of the Kyoto Jujutsu High School. Wearing their training uniforms, the four children looked around with interest. Alright, Satoru clapped his hands. Battle pals, it's time for you to see your first ever Jujutsu High sister event. Anyone know what this is? It's supposed to be a competition, isn't it? Mai asked as Satoru grinned. Correct. It's just an annual contest, isn't it? Maki asked. I mean, it's just so we can see who's stronger. Basically. Satoru agreed, but still, it's also a way for us to observe the potential of our students. You guys will also probably be meeting some of the other sorcerer family's kids or upcoming students if you're lucky. Naruto cupped his chin with a hum. You know? I never considered it, but I wonder which school I should go to, he said to the group. Right now, I do live in Kyoto and Nei-chan is here. You'd betray me? W.Y. Megumi looked pale. We'd fight you. Maki perked up with slowly narrowing eyes. Yeah, we'd fight you, right? She began to grin as Mai wheezed. See, come on. Seriously? The other twin balked as her sister shrugged. Naruto wouldn't need to go there. He could fight you in Tokyo. But that's just a spar. When he's willing to win something, Maki grinned, he's probably a completely different animal. Naruto considered her for a moment before grinning. Maybe, he said as Mai groaned, it's not like I won't be able to visit Mai-chan. But you'll be around less due to school and missions. It'd be longer spouts of time between them hanging out. and less time I'll have away from them. Things hadn't changed too much with the passing year. Her father still despised Maki. Her talented cousin got more talented. And Naruto was, as always, a drunk. Okay, no, that wasn't true. It was all bullshit. Maki's continuous, unrepentant admissions to still wanting to be a sorcerer. Her training weights. Her weapon that she'd spoken of having but left in Megumi's care for safekeeping. It piled up. Whether it was her cousin's bullying, their uncle's indifference to it all, and worst of all, their father's hand. Needless to say, Maki had only barely been left with almost broken bones due to two reasons that didn't fail to infuriate their father. Her enhanced physical sturdiness. This one he heckled as being the only good thing for her to attain in case of damage. And, not wanting to anger the Gojas somehow, someway, Naruto really did help even when he wasn't around, but that made her father furious. A Zenin holding their hand in their personal matters, as he said, because of a Goju, a child at that, made his anger somehow worse than his beatings. But Maki would know the most, more often than not taking Mai's own in her stead because she was crazy, because Maki was rebellious, because Mai was pathetic, dumb, weak. A hand on her shoulder snapped her out of her reverie, eyes widening before looking away from Naruto's searching gaze. She walked on ahead, the two of them at the back of their little group, likely due to her own ignorance. Mai-chan, Naruto whispered as he caught up to her quickly. Don't, she whispered intently, getting a frown out of him. I am fine, Mai lied as she grabbed his wrist before pulling him towards the group. Let's just go. The girl masked her expression. She couldn't break the promise she'd made to Maki. Naruto was a light in their lives that shouldn't have been marred by the darkness of their clan. He was too good for that. NRK. They made it towards the school section of the sister campus before finding a familiar woman standing there with a quartet of children. Yudahime smiled at the group even as they stared at her face in disbelief. The new large bandages around the middle of her face even had Satoru Power walking over in an instant, and staring at it with a frown. The woman blushed a bit, shooting the group a smile. She changed a bit, losing her former pigtail hairstyle and allowing it to fall down her back with some of it tied around the back of her head. Wearing a more formal Miko outfit compared to her former days with them, the articles still being white and red, there was now a bow at the back of her head and her feet were covered by brown boots. Welcome, she began as Naruto skidded to a stop along with the others. What happened? The kids asked in disbelief as she blinked and blushed, looking embarrassed and shy. Sensei? It was just a bit of a bad mission, Yudahime tried to explain as Satoru leaned forward a bit, hands in his pockets. Be back away. It was just one that required my assistance but ended up outside of my power, as some might say. He flinched, and she didn't look proud of that fact, brushing some strands out the way of her cheek. That looks rough, Nei-chan. Naruto frowned with crossed arms. Still, I guess since everyone's alright. Yes, we're all fine, she said with a smile. The cursed spirit will just require someone higher up to handle it. So, it's recent? Megumi asked. Sensei? I'm fine, Megumi-kun, I mean it. Instead, Yudahime smiled brightly before gesturing to the four curious individuals next to her. These are some of the children I'll be teaching in the future, she grinned. Of the four children, well, one stood out, because this one was basically a giant wooden robot. Greetings, he said, confusing the four visiting students while Satoru cupped his chin before pulling out his phone. You are that Goju I've heard of. As stated before, he seemed wooden, having a brown humanoid shell that was around the same height as Satoru, glassy green eyes, and an odd swirl mark on his forehead. This child wore what was basically baggy black pants with no shoes over his brown shell feet, a white rope around his waist, and a large black cloak over its torso. This is Mekamaru-kun, Yudahime introduced with a smile, seemingly not bothered at all by the fact one of her children was a robot. His situation is rather unfortunate. Please, ma'am, I'd like that to remain confidential, he said as the teacher nodded politely. Naruto stared at the now bowing robot. I can feel his cursed energy, but it was like it was bunched up in this robot and led off somewhere, a long way, that way, Naruto thought, eyes flicking from Mekamaru into the distance out a window. The robot's eyes whirled. NRK, can he sense me? A young boy thought in disbelief within a ton of life-sustaining fluids. Then, the rumors were true. A completely bandaged-up form shifted with a hiss as his dark brown eyes narrowed in the enclosed space made up of wires. He might be able to do it. The one who can use such a grand reverse curse technique beyond parallel to any known user throughout history. The boy who'd become the primal sage of heaven. NRK. Well, nice to meet ya, Mekamaru. Naruto grinned, name's Naruto Uzumaki. Megumi Fushiguro. Megumi introduced himself. Maki Zenin. Maki followed suit. My Zenin. Mai slowly hid behind the blonde as Mekamaru nodded to each of them. There's a robot at the school and nobody's weirded out? Pleased to meet you, Mekamaru-kun, Satoru said with a small smile as he closed his phone. Yutaheim, he's a robot. No offense to you, he quickly added as Yutaheim hummed. As I said, he has a worrying condition. Still, he's quite the little genius and will be joining Jujutsu High the same year Maki-chan will be, Yutaheim said. Next, we'll introduce Miwa-chan. A girl peeked out from behind Mekamaru. Hi. Miwa Kasumi. At your service, she declared with a raised hand as Mekamaru chuckled a bit. She was around the same height as Mai and Maki while sporting light blue hair set in a chin-length haircut, fair skin, and navy blue eyes. Wearing a blue tracksuit, white sneakers, and some water bottles in a bag, the girl seemed nice if not a bit cute. Sup, Naruto greeted back as Yutaheim smiled. He looked at them all before finding his eyes back on Miwa. Right, you don't have an innate technique, do you? The girl choked while the other three students' heads snapped to the blonde. How can you tell? The other girl of their little group gasped in. She was shorter than Miwa with short light blonde hair, fair skin, and blue eyes, wearing a black sundress, black flats, and 2 earrings on one of her ears. She held a broom in her hands. This is Momo Nishimiya-chan, Yutaheim said. Sup, Momo, don't hide from the question. Naruto blinked before chuckling. Well, I can tell. My senses can tell me if your cursed energy is more complete. He twitched his fingers, or not. The last member of the Kyoto High students grimaced at him. Looking conflicted. I see, he said. He was taller than most of the group sans the adults and Mekamaru with a slightly lanky frame, white skin, seemingly perpetually closed eyes, and black hair that was short with 2 chin-length bangs at the sides of his face. Wearing a black shitage, black hakama pants tied at the shins, tabi socks, and Zora sandals, he was frowning at the blonde Goju before sighing. Noritoshi Kamo of the Kamo clan, he introduced himself as his eyelids lifted for black eyes to lock onto Naruto's blue ones. Yo Uzumaki-san, Noritoshi said. Yep, glad to be it, Naruto told him without remorse and a raised brow, the older boy grimacing. I don't care if I'm a Goju or not, so I'd say you should do the same. Humph. The other boy kissed his teeth. Yutaheim-sensei, why did we meet them? Noritoshi asked, eyes landing on Megumi. Outside of him, they're going to be difficult to deal with, especially the blonde. Naruto Uzumaki kind of pissed him off with that last comment. Who denied their heritage like he did? His only claim to importance was the Goju clan and he ignored it? Yeah, this guy's gonna be fun. Mai didn't like how this one reacted to Naruto. She held onto the blonde's hand with narrowed eyes as Naruto wore a look of long trials ahead. Mekamaru's eyes simply focused on him. I'll need to find some time to constantly observe him. The cult he'd snuck in on had spoken of a dead sorcerer who gave them a divination about the blonde Goju's abilities. Healing abilities beyond parallel were exactly what he needed, but no one spoke of the blonde in high regard, not one. If anything, they'd been rather unkind due to believing he'd failed a mission to bring back one of their special grades. Honestly, humans can be so. It made him annoyed. Who blamed a child for the failure of a mission? It annoyed him to no end, especially because they acted like he deserved it. I need to mind Noritoshi-kun. The boy was one who thought this way, and Mekamaru knew, above all else, that he would likely try to rile the blonde boy up with this fact. We were supposed to greet Principal Mazumichi, but he was busy with family matters. Yutaheim smiled at that, ignorant to 4 particular individuals' thoughts. So, Satoru Goju was sent in his place. Yagabro's supposed to come soon. Give or take an hour, Naruto told her. He had to find his usual sitter, so he'll be here. He also had to grab some notes and stuff for my Shikigami. Huh? Miwa spoke up. Naruto-san, I thought you didn't have cursed energy. At least, that's what people say, she said quickly, hiding behind Mekamaru's humming form. There has been news, Miwa-chan, about Naruto Uzumaki gaining special Shikigami due to the help of his former non-sorcerer father. Naruto raised a brow at Mekamaru. I usually listen a lot, Naruto-kun. Nothing too odd. Well, I guess that'd be obvious, Megumi said as Mekamaru turned to him. And you are Megumi Fushiguro. Apologies, I'm just curious. Did you not take the name Zenin? I can't take care of my sister like that, Megumi answered without hesitation. Satoru smirking at that. I know my dad was in it at one point but he wasn't afterward. I don't want to join them, especially because they just want my technique. Noritoshi frowned. Another one? What was wrong with these people? His heart wilted for a moment at the boy's reasoning before it regained its steel. Being from one of the big sorcerer clans was an honor that couldn't be matched. There had to be some reason for his nonsensical answer. Noritoshi's eyes snapped to Naruto as Megumi demonstrated the coveted Ten Shadows technique. It seemed there was a problematic one amongst the Tokyo Jujutsu High students, one who didn't help matters. Meanwhile, Momo and Miwa smiled in adoration at the divine dogs conjured by Megumi's technique. I recently beat another one, Megumi admitted, but I can't really use him all that well yet. It's fine, that's what we're training for, Maki grinned as Naruto nodded. Ah yes, that ingenious method of yours that we'd heard of, Mechamaru stated with interest while Noritoshi grimaced. Many find your relationships odd, especially due to your family's pasts. Naruto raised a brow. What would whatever the hell some guys from 100 years ago mean to me? He said this kind of stuff is why these people can't work together. If you're gonna let what are essentially ghosts control who you're willing to be friends with, you've got a long way to go before you're a clan head to me. Twitch. Naruto-kun believes in judging people on their merits as individuals first and foremost, Yudahime said encouragingly to her most recent students. It's a more progressive way of thinking. Momo raised a brow at her fellow blonde. Maybe he won't be that bad. It'd be nice to have more open-minded boys around. And that my girls seem to like him well enough so Momo felt like they could be good friends. He's not wrong though, Megumi said. I don't really get it all the time but good people like Naruto. I guess it's usually something good people do, he muttered as Maki smirked a bit, bumping shoulders with the younger Zenin. It's a sight better than most oldies, she said as Miwa giggled a bit. They truly believe in him, Mechamaru realized. Noritoshi-kun isn't going to take well to this. Alright, Satoru clapped his hands together. I'll need to go and handle that cursed spirit quickly, he thought with more venom than even he was surprised by. Let's go and move to the observation room. If I may be so bold, Satoru-san, Noritoshi spoke up, eyes cracked open and narrowed. Before the event, can I ask for a spar with Uzumaki? No san or anything? Naruto rolled his shoulders as Mai tightened her grip on his hand. I mean, if you want to fight, he shrugged as the older boy's eyes narrowed before they closed. I'm down for anything. It shouldn't be too long of a fight, Aniki. There was another twitch of Noritoshi's brow. In time, he kept his emotions in check and mind focused. If he asks for such. Satoru considered the two boys before shrugging. Alright, the Goja had said, Haim-chan, he called out to the teacher who frowned before nodding. We'll use a bit of the forest for the competition, she said. NRK. They found themselves in a small clearing dotted by trees. The ground shifted up and light brown. Naruto and Noritoshi stood across from one another in the middle of it, the others standing outside of the area while Mechamaru released a small shikigami from within his forearm to view the area. Surveillance has been established, Mechamaru said. If you have any last-minute hesitations, now would be the time. Yudahime considered his words, eyes closed before she shook her head. No, it's fine, we'll continue the match, boys. She stepped forward as both participants looked at her. The rules of combat are as such. Yudahime looked between them. All forms of cursed energy reinforcement are allowed along with Jujutsu. Noritoshi-kun can't use his family's curse technique fully so this should be a fair fight. Noritoshi's eyes narrowed while Naruto nodded, preparing to take his weights off. Nope, Satoru said to his cousin who blinked at him. Keep those on, this has to be a fair fight. Well I guess, Naruto said, removing his hands off of them under Noritoshi's glare. Huh? What's he mean? Momo asked as Mechamaru cupped his chin. Same question, he proposed to Satoru and the Tokyo High group. Oh well, Aniki wears weights, Megumi said as Miwa blinked. Like an anime. She gasped as he blinked before nodding. Why yeah, Nichan's heavenly restriction means he has to push his physical skills like Maki-ne-chan. Oh right, we heard about that, NRK. Still, the young boy's eyes blinked. How long has he been using them? Why did Satoru Goju declare that this fight would be fair if he kept them on? Had the boy attained physical prowess beyond imagination? Was that it? Or was Naruto Uzumaki more of a monster than he assumed? NRK. Naruto didn't pull out Ryubang before crouching a bit, eyes half-lidded. Noritoshi grimaced at him before holding his hands together in a prayer-like fashion. Flowing red scale, he declared as Naruto's eyes locked onto his changes. A red splatter mark X formed around his right eye. the boy widening his own stance. It was perfectly balanced between back and front, Norotoshi's left arm out towards the blonde and curled up a bit while his right did the same but more at his side. I won't be giving you any quarter just because of your age, he said with narrowed eyes. I will treat you how you wish to be treated. Whether that ends up your misfortune is all on your own head. Naruto's eyes gleamed. I guess we'll go over the different types of techniques in the big clans first, Toji said as Naruto did some push-ups. Right now, learning about the Gojus is a moot point, Goju brat. So we'll talk about the other two, since the Zenin clan sorcery is kinda annoying to explain out of nowhere. We'll explain Kumo's first. Yudahime looked between them before raising her hand. The match before Naruto Uzumaki and Noritoshi Kumo. Begin! Her arm came down. Noritoshi's eyes narrowed before he shot around the trees of the surrounding area. Despite my annoyance, I can't take him lightly, the older combatant said as his eyes remained on the blonde. He's traded cursed energy for something. He just didn't know what that something was. But he had his own skills to play. His eyes widened at a presence at his back, one that ravaged his senses for a moment before he blinked, and the blonde in the middle of their arena vanished. He skidded before swinging around with a backhand at the presence only to hit nothing, his eyes snapping down to see the blonde. Naruto's head slammed into the center of his chest before sending the older male flying back into a tree. Noritoshi bounced with a grimace. TSK. He lunged at the standing blonde before his palm strike met a raised forearm. The floor cracked a moment later as Noritoshi's eyes widened. Another loud smack rang out as he hit that same tree again, cracking it this time with both his arms raised in defense. That power was ridiculous. He rolled out of the way of the blonde's fist. Right as it was about to make contact, it stopped before the blonde's gaze landed on the blood manipulator. The Kumo child crossed his arms as the blonde punched out at him again, and he was sent flying, again. Huh! How? Momo gawked as the blonde boy essentially ragdolled Noritoshi. What? What did he trade for his heavenly restriction? Probably cursed energy, Maki said with a grin, raising her hands to show the weights on them. Me and Nero over there have used these weights for a while. I know he's used them for over twice the time I have. Miwa's eyes shined in excitement as Mai sighed in relief. His strength for his size is still commendable, Mekamaru said as he looked to Yudahime for answers, the woman giggling a bit while Satoru snorted. You spoke about him before. How did he train to attain such strength? His method to power is a bit different compared to Maki's, Satoru said as the girl in question blinked. Wait, it is because of his heavenly restriction, right? She asked. Yes, it is, Yudahime said with a smile. But just because you both have heavenly restrictions doesn't mean they all act the same, she added with a smile thrown Mekamaru's way. Yes, she is correct, Mekamaru nodded. No matter what, there are likely always distinctions, and of course, Mekamaru knew this in full. Naruto Uzumaki's powers were aligned with positive forces that most couldn't handle. When the time came, he'd be as valuable as all special grades just on that fact alone. Noritoshi grimaced as he sliced at the blonde with a knife hand. The shorter boy was already ducking low before hooking him in the side. Don't falter. The Kumo child thought with a stifling cough before bringing both his elbows down on the blonde's back. His reactions proved to be as ridiculous as they'd been before, the boy leaning back and crossing his arms just in time to block his attack. The blows cracked the floor beneath Naruto's feet, but nothing else, the younger male kicking out at Noritoshi's shin and causing him to crumble on one side. He tackled him, the two going into a roll that ended with a leg-held throw. The older boy choked on his breath as he went through a tree before hitting the trunk of another and sliding down it, barely landing on his feet. That trembled. He grunted at the feeling. How? Does his restriction truly give him that much advantage? Or was that arrogant? The other boy's reaction speed, strength, actual speed, and martial arts knowledge outstripped his own by a series of magnitudes that the Kumo heir hadn't thought was possible. Even with flowing red scale, he was barely keeping up. His defenses held somewhat, but that was it. He was on the losing end. And those weights make this fair? He wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it all, but couldn't. That was a true fact. Without those restrictions, he'd have lost long ago. He took in a few rapid breaths before slowing his blood rate, looking up to see nothing. Not a hint of his opponent until he heard the rustle of leaves, the breaking of branches, and the steps of dirt. He looked around, barely seeing the blur that had become Naruto Uzumaki. He didn't have much at his age. The Kumo here knew he'd gain more things to his repertoire and skill set in time, but, at that very moment, he didn't have much beyond 2 techniques, flowing red scale and a barely controlled crimson bindings. Kamo felt his abdomen area, 2 large packets of blood sitting within specialized pouches in his attire. Can I hit him? Would that even be enough? Naruto's body was tough like his own and the other boy's reaction speed. No, he would do it. As the Kamo clan here, he'd not fall here. He ran about, eyes flicking through the trees to catch the blonde's blurring form. Not yet, I need to catch him off guard. He circled around as he listened in on Naruto's steps. Don't get confused. His skin began to grow flush before he, too, became a blur. I can't see them, Momo muttered as she looked about with squinted eyes. I can't, Megumi shook his head. A bit, Mai admitted as Miwa nodded. They're really fast and I thought Kamokun's curse technique was super good at enhancing his body, the swordswoman said as she looked before whining. Is this the bar for sorcerers? Yudahime smiled. Those with great technique can make it to levels beyond, but don't just focus on one aspect. Miwa-chan, the world of Jujutsu has so many different aspects to it that you can mold into your own. I mean, you can use simple domain. Not everyone can or will get the chance to. The girl blushed before looking hopeful, Mai raising a brow at her. Didn't you want to be a sorcerer? She asked the blue-haired girl. I do. Miwa fumbled a bit. I just want to know what the differences between sorcerers are. I know that grade 1s make a lot of money. Enough to live in an apartment. Maki raised a brow. What? I want to make a lot of money. Huh? Miwa-chan's family is poor. Mekamaru explained as the girl nodded rapidly. She wants to support her family. It's a noble goal. He nodded as Miwa blushed before fiddling with her katana's handle. It shouldn't be that bad, Miwa-chan, Satoru said with a nod. Even grade 2 can support you enough for an apartment, he explained. Then again, grade 1 is so much money. The girl's eyes shined as Yudahime rolled her eyes at the man's shenanigans but didn't deny it. You can ask Haim-chan too, he said, getting a blush and mumble out of the woman. She's semi-grade 1 and I'm pretty sure she's supposed to be getting an upgrade soon, Satoru said before cupping his chin. How long is that supposed to be? He asked her as she burned a bit. Shut up. I need to take more missions for that, she admitted. I like teaching, it just doesn't come with as much potential for job advancement. I feel like that's kinda weird, Maki admitted. I mean, if you make a student who's grade 1, wouldn't that mean you got the potential? She asked. Well, I've only really helped produce semi-grade 1s, the woman admitted. I've never helped a student become grade 1. I'm sure Nara and I will do it, Megumi said with determination as she chuckled a bit. Then, you can be grade 1 too. Honestly, I do sometimes wonder what it's like for people who'd make special grade students. She smirked as Satoru gasped dramatically. Then again, Yaga-sensei is a principal now. It must work well. I can give you a soft maybe on that. She sweat dropped. I mean, that old man did help a bit, but I was already the genius you see before you. Satoru posed as a pair of trees fell, the man who the heavens grasped at desperately. The Satoru Goju. Yudahime's face went flat. Thank God Naruto isn't like him, she told the children, Mai and Maki smirking at Satoru's depressed state. Then there was an explosion that landed the result of the match. Moments earlier, Kamo found his opportunity when he felt Naruto's presence on his back. I knew you'd do this, he thought with a neutral expression, pretending to still look ahead of him. That's why this is my win. He turned on a dime to find the blonde's raised fist in view. Crisman bindings. Kamo threw the last of his blood packets at the blonde whose eyes widened. Naruto skipped back with that ridiculous amount of reaction speed like before, Kamo's snake-like blood streams slamming together to miss him, right as the blonde landed by a familiar cracked tree. Got you! Kamo's hands slammed together within one another's grasp. The blood packet on the floor shot up around the surprised blonde. I win dash! Do you? Kamo's eyes snapped open in disbelief. As he looked at the Oni currently within his bindings, the sound of someone's voice emanating from behind him. What? How had he done it? Had he had the Shikigami on him? Was it in the pouches? But even then, how did he avoid crimson bindings? Good game, Noritoshi. Noritoshi's body trembled before the punch to his back brought him down into the ground. The floor exploded into a billowing dust cloud, Naruto nodding to the result while looking down at his wrists. Are these actually working? He wondered if he'd just become that strong or if there was more acting below the surface. Naruto tightened his fists with a nod. The sounds of approaching steps had him crossing his arms, Sage's form released and returning to his talisman pouch. See? Fair, Satoru said with a grin as Mekamaru hummed, his flying camera coming back down and inserting back into his forearm. This will be useful information. If he could figure out more about the boy, he might be able to make a trade of sorts. You were correct. Noritoshi-kun was outclassed in every fashion save for durability. I wasn't sure how he'd fare, myself, but I know that Naruto's reaction time is literally second to none. I can say, amongst all else, unless Nori-kun got really creative, Naruto wouldn't lose. Having him take off his weights would be pointless. Momo hummed in interest. Noritoshi-kun is said to be a pretty good sorcerer even now. This is kinda hard to believe, she said as they stopped by the blonde to see the results. Ouch. The blood user was currently sitting in a crater almost twice his size, the side of his pretty boy face bruised and his clothes in disarray. Outside of a few cuts on his arm and clothes, Naruto looked absolutely fine. A truly one-sided affair. Time for Gojo-sensei's masterful pick-me-up, Satoru said as he walked over to the downed boy and crouched to his level. A1, A2, and A healed. He pressed a raised finger down on the knocked-out boy's cheek, Mekamaru's eyes whirling in interest. NRK. Watching Satoru heal Noritoshi, he had his robot pick up the still unconscious student before the group was walking back to the school building. He's capable of it as well, and the man didn't look bothered too much to do the move. Still, it wouldn't be enough. Regular reverse curse technique isn't good enough. It had to be the blonde's powers. He didn't know what it was. Likely a component in the blonde's energy would differ from other usages of positive energy. All he knew was that he had to form a plan or deal for the blonde. NRK. Mai nodded to the blonde as she finished putting the bandages on the blonde's arm. There, she said, you should have had Gojo-san do it. It's fine. It'd be kinda pointless to make him use energy on a few cuts, Naruto told her as he put back on his uniform. Thanks, Mai-chan. The girl blushed a bit but nodded. Yutaheim stared in fascination as Momo followed suit with Miwa. The boys just shook their heads. I don't get it, they said, Mekamaru included. Maki just shrugged. An hour later, Mazumichi arrived and nodded to the group sitting in the observation room with him and the principal of Kyoto Jujutsu High. The former teacher had changed a decent bit since Geto's betrayal. Now bearing a powerfully clean-cut goatee and beard, he'd grown out his hair into small spiked-back locks with the sides of his head still shaved with those familiar lines. With a pair of black shades over his eyes, he now wore a black priest's outfit minus the extra robes. The sash around his neck that came down to his waist bearing a powerful white with black scripture written on it. Sitting down, he was positioned next to the principal of Kyoto High, Yoshinobu Gakkiganji. He was a moderate-height individual with extremely wrinkled fair skin, eyes impossible to see from the shadows his thick long gray eyebrows cast over them, long ears, and a foot-long gray beard that ended in a sharp tip. Wearing a white shiitake, dark blue hakama, tabi socks, and Zora sandals, the man's hands rested on a wooden cane that helped him around. Looking at the children, he raised a brow at the sulking Noritoshi in a corner with a smirking Momo next to him. It's fine, Nori-kun, it was one-sided, she said with a cheeky grin and the boy slumped further. He seemed so defeated. Yoshinobu shook his head. What happened? He asked Yutaheim and Yaga, ignoring Satoru completely. My cuz beat one of your future students. The Goju interceded anyway, getting an annoyed huff out of Yoshinobu but a curious look regardless. The old man looked at Naruto, the blonde boy currently sitting up above near the screen at the front of the room with the rest of the Tokyo High children and even half of Kyoto High's own. The boy seemed to have their avid attention as he pointed to one particular student destroying a curse before making a spinning gesture with his hand. Seconds later, that same student was blindsided by a raccoon-looking cursed spirit that spun around a tree by its disfigured tail before tackling him to the ground. The fight still ended in the boy's favor, but Naruto's clear understanding of the curse's movement got the principal's attention. I wasn't here yet by that time, but I can see that happening, Yaga said. Right now, Naruto's more physically capable than most, a year or two above his age range, possibly even a first-year student. The older principal blinked, like that chatter from years ago. You fully believe in his abilities? Yes, Naruto-kun is capable, sir, Yutaheim smiled. He's received an array of teachings that he's taken well to. They watched the proceedings of the Kyoto High Goodwill event with interest. It's unfortunate Nanamian graduated, Satoru pouted as Yutaheim smirked. Ugh, we lost. It's still only the first day, The second half might prove to Tokyo High's favor, Yaga said with a hum. Still, we certainly don't have the advantage in curse exorcism speed. It's still good to see that all the students are coming into their own, Yudahime said. For now, let's go and have some lunch, yes? The entire group got up before taking their leave. Noritoshi muttered some things as he walked next to Naruto. Sup? You done? The blonde asked him as Mai snickered. Dude, come on, let bygones be bygones, Naruto told the older boy who grimaced before sighing. How could I lose? He said, looking at the blonde. You've truly taken your body to its current peak, but to have advantage in every other ability but defense seems improbable. Can't tell ya, my body's just different. Besides, you can literally take your skills up a notch while I've gotta keep training and finding different ways to work on things, Naruto explained. Also, you could have powered me out. I was expecting to have to worry about blood blades. I don't have that kind of control yet. Projectiles are a bit more troublesome. Huh? No, I don't mean that, Naruto said, confusing him. I mean, like using that extra blood to coat your arms in blood blades. I wouldn't have been able to block your attacks like that. Noritoshi's eyes widened and he cupped his chin while Megumi nodded. He's right, he said, gaining the older brunette's attention. I can't do that with 10 shadows. We tried, Megumi admitted. I don't have complete control over shadows like you do blood. I didn't consider that. The way my family has used it has always focused on internal enhancements and external long to mid-range, Noritoshi said. None have used it like that, to my knowledge. Well, now you know, Naruto smirked. Working outside of your comfort zone will work for you. You just need a bit more creativity. I thought you didn't like each other, Momo asked curiously, tilting her head. Noritoshi blushed while Naruto shrugged. I was a bit annoyed, but I don't hate him. Besides, we got to work out differences. Nothing like a good fist-to-fist to make life easier. What? It's a guy thing. The girl looked unsure of that as Maki snorted. It's kinda fun though, she said as Momo shot her a flat look. Why you hum around boys too much? Don't get your cute face punched in. Momo gasped as Maki smirked while Mai grinned nervously. I can heal. My feelings aren't that easy, so, trust me, a good fist fight works wonders. Momo looked ready to refute it while Miwa looked intrigued. Guys are like that in anime all the time, Momo. The blue-haired girl said as Mekamaru hummed. I understand, on some level, that it makes sense, he said, shocking the broom wielder. Why you too? Mekamaru. I expected better of you. Momo shot him a flat look as he rubbed the back of his head. It's kind of a guy thing. I don't want to hear it. As the teens got into a debate on fistfights saving relationships, Yudahime smiled as Satoru smirked. Yaga nodded to Yoshinobu. This is another reason why he's so effective. NRK. As they ate in the cafeteria, Naruto blinked as he felt a presence coming up behind them. He turned his head to see a girl. She wore a nervous look and had light brown hair that came down to her chin in slightly choppy locks, light brown eyes, and lightly tanned skin, wearing a dress shirt, a black skirt, and brown boots. She had a phone on her hip and a chain on the other. Nanako-chan. Yudahime smiled at the girl who smiled back before coming over with a nervous expression. Please, everyone meet Nanako, she's a girl we picked up recently. Hey, she said to the group, now standing behind the blonde boy in their midst. Some manner of greeting was said by most of the group, the girl looking more relaxed before sitting down with them. I woke up late, sorry. It's no problem, Mai smiled. Still, you missed out on a lot of things. She grinned as Noritoshi blushed, the boy coughing off to the side. Nanako blinked, looking intrigued. What did I miss? Nothing. Noritoshi said in an instant as Miwa giggled a bit. It's nothing, Nanako-kun. The fact remains, I and Naruto-kun simply had a spar, no more, no less. Nanako took one look at the blonde boy and then Noritoshi. You won, right? Nori-kun, why you won, right? Nope, Mai said with a little remorse. Naruto-kun clobbered him. Basically, Maki said. It's true, Megumi agreed. Guys, easy on him. I think his spirit's passing on, Naruto said with a sweat dropped at the pure white Noritoshi. It was just some guy friendship we were working on. Guy friendship? Nanako looked so confused as Momo pouted. You should have been here. We could have made my argument work, but everyone else is crazy. She pouted some more. What? NRK. Nanako snickered as the preteens and teens of the group sat in a dojo, the girl finally having the entire picture. Noritoshi had immediately offered himself to go away from them and spar with anyone, Megumi taking the offer. God, isn't he always so uptight and no-faced? she asked Momo, who grinned. Not this time around, he ain't, the blonde girl said as they laughed. Miwa sparred a bit with Maki a bit away, the green-haired girl sporting a wooden spear in her grasp while Miwa handled a wooden sword. Is it hard for you? The blue-haired girl asked, concerned as Maki frowned a bit before shrugging. Yeah, but I'll deal with it. I will become a sorcerer and make 'em eat their words, the restricted one said. I guess it's not like me. Ain't nothing wrong with your motivations, hell, it's a sight better that other sorcerers care about their families. Don't worry about it, now fight me. The girl considered the current situation with a hum. She hummed, I wished Samaki-chan was here. Another girl? Momo asked with excitement, my chuckling a bit. Well, she's not really a sorcerer but she knows her stuff. She's Megumi-kun's sister, and wants to live a mostly normal life. Mostly normal? Nanako asked. She knows all the jujutsu stuff and how to make shikigami, barriers, curtains, and talismans. The two looked surprised. And she didn't want to be a sorcerer? Momo pouted as Mai giggled a bit. She told us she just wanted to help Naru and Megumi. I guess that's cool. I feel like she should have stood on her own to be a big female sorcerer. We don't have many of those. Huh? Well, I do know some others. You do? Nanako looked surprised, kinda. Well, I mean, it's not impossible. Right, Yudahime-sensei said that she had a lot of female sorcerer friends. Momo grinned. That's good. I want to be a sorcerer so I can make the girl's side look great. Mai could understand that. Improving the standing of female sorcerers would be a nice change. Yeah, she said slowly. I mean, what about you? Mai flinched, looking embarrassed. Mai-chan? She doesn't want to be one, Naruto explained, Momo's jaw dropping as he rubbed the back of his head. I mean, I don't know everything about it but it's what she's told me. Still, we play a lot of the time and I think she's good at reinforcement techniques. Mai blushed at that, Nanako raising a brow at her. Right, she said as Mai burned up and shot her a look of horror. Nanako snickered at her while Momo's expression changed in an instant. I just don't. Besides, I have my own dreams and stuff. Mai burned up, Naruto cupping his chin with that infamous squint-eyed look. Oh no. Don't. Please don't tell her he was thinking about it. That was bound to be bad. Just ignore it. Huh? Wait, why dash? Naruto tried to ask. Just do it. Mai demanded as he sweat-dropped before shrugging. Alright, he dropped it as she pouted. Sorry? Naruto tried. Mai huffed, and he slumped. Why is understanding girls so hard? We're complicated, Momo said proudly. Mekamaru's head slowly turned to her with what had to be a look of disbelief. Yes. Well, he considered his words before dropping it. Females really were a different breed, he supposed. Anarchy. The night after the day's meetings and events, Nanako sat in her room, looking down at her vanity dresser. She opened a drawer and pulled out a phone before making the call. 2 rings went by before it was picked up. Nanako? Geto and I, she said with a smile. What's going on? Did something happen? That Naruto guy is here. Geto Suguru made a humming noise. What for? The Goodwill event, she explained. Oh, I'd forgotten about those, he said with a sheepish chuckle. He's not participating, is he? Geto said, sounding like a confused man. Nope, just here with some other guys. Let me guess, a boy and 3 girls? 2 girls? She's probably really living that normal life despite her affinities. Nanako looked confused. Don't mind me, just thinking about wasted potential. For now, you should simply do as you and Mimiko are. I don't know, bro, was this really a good idea? Nanako asked nervously. Is everything fine? I feel like I'm getting anxious. I feel a little sick. Oh, he said softly, I know this is hard on you too, especially since you're usually so inseparable. Please, do your best. I'll send over a spirit to give you some pills. Just know, this is important. I love you both. Nanako nodded, biting her lip. I love you too, bro. Can you tell Mimiko? Short on time? Yeah, we're having night classes. Very well, I promise though. I'm sure you'll see her again. You're at sister schools. After all, HM. She pouted. That bad? Yep, that bad. Anarchy. Now sitting with the group in the observation room, Nanako observed the others with interest. I wonder why bro thinks Naruto is so important. She looked at the blonde in question. The boy was currently talking with Megumi Fushiguro about his Shikigami, the Shadow Boy, as she started calling him in her head, having a rabbit and frog at his sides. God, they're so cute. Yes, the rabbit too, and she struggled to not go down there and hug the life out of the slimy-looking amphibian. With Naruto, He nodded to Megumi as the boy explained more of his skill set. I can mix them, but it takes their combined amount of cursed energy, Megumi explained as he petted the rabbit and told Shikigami with a smile. I wanted to see if you have any ideas for combinations. Rabbit escape and divine dogs, Naruto said in an instant as the Fushiguro boy grinned. Ah, you're getting it, but yeah, you could make a bunch of one-off but powerful wolf rabbits to charge in and attack. Besides, those two are the least expensive ones in your arsenal. Really? Miwa asked, her phone in her hands and taking numerous pictures of another rabbit Shikigami in her midst. You're so cute, she squealed. Maki looked down at the toad by her sitting form, constantly poking the croaking Shikigami in its inflating cheek, the spirit not bothered in the least. God, you're gonna make whatever wife you get happy, she snickered as Megumi huffed, looking red in the face. Ha! My hummed at Naruto's side where Sage sat. Actually, Naru, what about him? Fujin. She grinned as the blonde blinked before chuckling and removing a talisman, Fujin's talisman, from his talisman pouch. Come on out, Fujin, he called to it, slapping the item on the ground where it glowed. Seconds later, it puffed out golden smoke before dispelling to reveal a curious spirit that kneeled down by Naruto's side and nudged Toad a bit. It was a big Shikigami, almost the size of an average-height man, especially considering it was supposed to follow Naruto's growth. It bore a pure white coat with a series of blue marks on its hindquarters, shoulders, and forehead around a dark blue horn that ended in a short fork of 2 spikes, having a dark blue mane with 2 big glowing swirls of haze by its neck and on its feet. The creature had scales on its cheeks and a nearly impossibly long tail. The Kirin looked around with its completely blue eyes, the Shikigami observing Megumi before nudging the boy's cheek, much to his grin. Fujin! He and Mai cheered as the Kirin nodded to them all, looking around and tilting its head at Yoshinobu. The principal of Kyoto, along with Yutaheim's students, looked on in interest. I was of the opinion that he had no cursed energy, the old man said with interest. Or is this just a weak Shikigami? One's true, Satoru said as he walked on over and pat the Kirin on the nape, the dragon horse neighing a bit in delight. Naru's pops is a master talisman maker, remember? That had been another thing that changed over time. Minato Namikaze had become a more well-known quality in the schools and Jujutsu world. The man's genius had never-ending interest from many inside and outside of the schools, while his relation to his wife and son bore no end of scrutiny. Many questioned if the blonde wouldn't follow in his father's footsteps, while also being surprised in the Goju woman's ability to handle the talismans and their understanding. Truly, the Uzumaki family was making a comeback most couldn't even know about. Ah, that man? Yep, so, he helped out and things ended up like this. The Shikigami Naruto has a part in our pretty revolutionary in that it took some of Nara's blood and they gained a perfect quality for him. Yutaheim shot the Goju man a worried look. He grinned at. A perfect quality? Yoshinobu raised a brow. And I don't suppose this is revealed? Nope. Under the words of Satoru Goju, head of the Goju clan, this secret will live within only the Uzumaki clan, Satoru said, confusing Yutaheim. Oh, right. You might have been busy, but I did some sneaky stuff. Is that how we're saying it? Naruto raised a brow before rolling his eyes at his cousin's thumbs up. Well, basically, yeah, in time, there'll likely be a subclan in the Goju clan. The blonde boy gestured with jazz hands at Satoru. Yutaheim looked surprised by this news along with most everyone else. What? Yoshinobu's eyes peeked out of the darkness of his brows. What are you doing? Solving some things, Satoru explained. We need more sorcerer clans that aren't the big 3. Some that can make new pathways for the Jujutsu world at large. Sure, our head clan is a bit overshadowing for now, but I'm sure this will lead to better growth and opportunities. Hell, Uncle's already getting letters from other sorcerer families and mentors to try and learn under him. It's bound to be interesting. Of course, it still needs to be permitted by the higher-ups, Yaga said, but even if it's only within the Goju family, the boy's parents and he can do some good. He added as Yoshinobu ran his hands down around his beard. You approve? I can see quality and potential in my own students. Oh? Student taking before he's even within? The older principal huffed. Don't you have children? Yaga heard the quotation marks in his voice and shrugged. You know they still don't trust you, the old man thought. That's also a part of this, likely. Hee. We can corner the market on sorcerers, Satoru said with a sly grin as Noritoshi stared at him in disbelief. Make a new clan? Was that even possible? Likely not for someone who isn't a clan head and special grade. But it was an idea. Noritoshi had ideas about a possible solution to his problems, possibly. That sounds crazy, Miwa said in awe. Is being one of the big three hard? She asked. Miwa-chan, let me tell ya, it absolutely is. The girl made a shocked sound as Momo's sweat dropped. To be part of the big sorcerer families ain't a joke, hell. Ours only became this way because of being related to the three biggest vengeful spirits in all of Japan. Sugawara no Michizane, Yutaheim explained, ticking off fingers, Taro no Masakato, and finally, Emperor Sotoku. It's not wrong to say, these three were basically the beginning of their clans. That sounds crazy, Megumi said. I don't think we ever spoke on this, he told Naruto. I'm not exactly great at history, Megumi. Trust me if I didn't tell you. It's because I didn't even remember, he admitted as his friend nodded. Besides, we weren't trying to be that big. It'd be kinda crazy to have that happen twice in the Goju clan. True, Satoru said. Anyways, Naruto-kun's family is special in technique when it comes to talismans and shikigami related to said talismans and their concept. All things considered, they could really give the world a run for their money. Why, Fujin's the best part. The Kirin neighed again while Naruto chuckled, patting his cheek. Yeah, he is full of hot air. He smirked as Satoru smirked right back. Ugh, you like him too much, Naruto said to his shikigami Kirin. Fujin's a bit different from Sage in that he's wind-natured. He smiled as the Kyoto group looked confused. Wind-natured? Momo asked Mai, who nodded with a look of awe. The crazy part is, Naruto's dad somehow made it so its energy comes out purely as wind, she explained as Yutaheim looked intrigued. Yeah, I thought it was crazy, too. All I know is, Minato-san said that Fujin's close to an idea he and Nara had. It's still in the makings, Naruto nodded. But it'd be nice to make these guys perfect. The youth of today are truly odd, Yoshinobu said as Naruto grinned with a waggling eyebrow. Away from me, if your looks could kill, they'd be trying to scam me. The boy grinned wider. Anarchy. After the Goodwill event games, Mai, Momo, and Miwa grinned as Naruto controlled the astral reins that slipped out of Fujin's neck. Let's take this to the sky, boy, the blonde boy declared as the energy around the Kirin's hooves glowed before they ascended as it galloped. Yes. Aerial maneuvers. The girls squealed as they moved throughout the sky on a dragon horse. The others down below watched it all go down. His father seems rather amazing, Noritoshi said with a look of awe, Mekamaru nodding. Making it so the energy within the shikigami resides in an element. It's quite impressive. And useful thinking. Anarchy. Could I imbue the Mekamaris with an element of use? The bandaged boy considered with a hum. I need to know his secrets. How could he change the method of energy? How did he do it? Anarchy. As Naruto brought Fujin down from the sky, the dragon horse neighed as their landing happened almost immediately. No need to bleed off moment as gusts of wind shot out from its feel. Haha. As I said, Satoru smirked at Yoshinobu's look of intense interest. Revolutionary. Yep, we're gonna get even better at this. Naruto chuckled as he helped the girls off his shikigami. Sometimes, you just need a new outlook, Yoshijiji. The old principal raised a brow at that while Yutaheim grinned just out of sight. I suppose Goju's words aren't for naught. Your family is likely to make a big name for themselves. Thanks, Naruto said with a grin as Mai giggled from Fujin's side. She wished these kinds of days could last forever. But she knew better. Really, it all began to fall down over the passing year. Anarchy. Half a year later, Zenin household. Mai grimaced as she flew back into the wall of the dojo, flopping down next to Maki with a quivering lip. I thought you were better than her, Mai. Oji grimaced as he walked towards his downed daughters. You knew your place. You chose to live life as a woman, and yet I find out you've been hanging around that boy, playing at being a sorcerer. Mai choked on tears as Maki struggled to her feet, hate in her eyes. Every time I give you warnings, I've held my hand, and even bowed my head for you. Do you children not understand what you put your parents through? By being born, you already damned us to inadequacy, and the least amount of effort you can put in is impossible? Why were you born? The words bit at Mai's heart and had her biting her lip. I told you. Maki growled as she got to her feet, eyes full of rebellion. This is all me, you old bastard. You got a problem, it's with me. Anarchy. The twins awoke what had to be hours later, where the nighttime sky fluttered through a large window and allowed them to see each other. Maki wore a look of failure as Mai covered her eyes with her arms. I hate this place. Anarchy. A day later, When Naruto arrived at the top of the steps to the Zenin clan home, he knew something was off. Whether it was the lack of mai or maki, the looks some of the random clan members threw his way, or even just the feeling of the place, something had gone wrong. His eyes narrowed at it all, his senses reaching out for the twin sisters. His eyes widened before he ran off into the compound, leaping over large stretches of water to other wooden pathways to speed up, and came face to face with Ranta, the Zenin teen grimacing as he caught sight of him. Ranta! Naruto's run slowed to a crawl as Ranta's head fell. Ranta! What the hell is going on? The blonde frowned as the brunette grimaced. Naruto-kun, it might be for the best that you go home today, Ranta said. Something set Naruto's senses on bullshit. Ranta, you can't, it's not, they wouldn't want you to see them. Wouldn't want him to see them? No. Naruto felt like there was a throbbing nerve that was on the edge. Why? The question hung in the air, leaving Ranta quivering. The world seemed to get wider and wider, the black being before him's blazing eyes looking at him with a threat. What happened, Ranta? There was silence as the feeling went away and Ranta looked up with ashamed eyes. The words that spilled from his lips dropped Naruto's control. His tail bristled and throbbed as Ranta stared in disbelief and shame. Naruto didn't say anything to him, walking around the boy and heading towards the location of the twin sisters. His approach alerted nearly every other Zenin on the pathways, the hidden guards popping up and onto the bridgeway in his path. Naruto's eyes burned. Anarchy. Naruto calmly approached the carnage as the guard hurriedly told him everything that was happening. "Yes, sir. We have to." "Sure, quiet," the Zenin had said, eyes closed as he opened the doors of his home and walked out to see the result. Oji, this will fall on your head," he uttered without emotion. The bruised, still breathing, and broken bodies of his clan's guards had the man humming. When Junichi arrived, he shook his head, the large man's look of disbelief apparent. "Come, I know where this is going," the oldest Zenin said. They power walked down the wooden pathways and found an unharmed Ranta sitting on the edge of one part. The boy looked miserable, eyes dim and expression blank. He went after Oji-san, Zenin-sama, he told Naobito, who nodded before walking past. The old man didn't stop to speak with him, simply walking on. The further he went, the less carnage he found, but only due to the fact that they didn't have that many guard members hanging around the residential areas. Then there was a harsh crack in the air, shouting, growling, and all manner of whimpering. They stopped at the feeling of pressure fell over them, eyes snapping to the corner of a brick wall to see a white beast. Naobito blinked and found the sight of a bloody but strong Naruto Uzumaki walking away from the direction of Oji's home. The boy's Shikigami stood behind him, completely untouched by blood or the sight of effort, with familiar twin girls in their care. The sight of a familiar crystal-like blue eye nearly startled Naobito as he saw them glow. "What have you become, Naobito asked as Junichi's eyes widened at the feeling resting on his shoulders. So, his heavenly restriction. It wasn't just some form of meager limit releasing, no. The tail, the wilder hair, the darker whisker marks? No, there was likely a high chance the boy's humanity and human cursed energy had been traded for an enhancement that likely went further than the sight before him. The distortion in the air around the blonde intrigued him, but moments later, Naobito sighed as a familiar man landed at his side with a look of rage plastered on his face, along with a fist-shaped bruise. The man held a katana curse tool at his hip with white knuckles, eyes burning with a hatred Naobito didn't expect but wasn't surprised by. "Return my daughters, you animal," Oji hissed as that being, Naruto Uzumaki, shot him a look that nearly chilled his bones and caused him to snap. "And if I don't?" Naobito perked up at the feeling in the blonde's voice, a voice that had deepened and yet was filled with an animalistic fury that fit his current appearance. "Naruto-kun," Naobito began, "I can see it in those eyes of yours, boy, you're looking for a fight. I'm pushing his face into the dirt when I get back," Naruto said without hesitation as the twins' father roared at him. "Release my daughters, this instant." Oji shouted at the boy whose eyes flickered with more power, "or I shall cut you down here and now." "Do what?" Naruto whispered, "You're not gonna do shit until I get back here, you scum." Flames built up from within Oji's sheath. "That's enough," Naobito declared between the two. "Oji, what in the world have you brought upon our clan?" It's not my home this trail of bodies leads to," the older man said simply as Oji's face scrunched in anger. "It was not I who he wished to deal with. Our clan is more important than some boy." Oji shouted, faces and eyes peering through windows and screens. Do not stop me, Nobito-sama. I shall see to it that a repeat of 100 years doesn't come to pass. Those are some big words, came a voice from above, Satoru Gojo landing in their midst. But please continue, he frowned. That child is stealing my children. Satoru blinked at that, frown deepening at the ends as he turned around. Another pressure slowly began to fall over the three Zenin men's shoulders as he turned back around with a neutral expression. Nobito groaned at this turnout. Your cousin wishes to fight my nephew, the Zenin had said as Satoru's gaze went to him. If so, I don't mind allowing that to take place, Satoru Gojo. Just remember, I can turn my eye to the boy's carnage but not to yours. The second pressure stopped, Satoru turning around still with that neutral expression. Make sure to clean your neck for him, Oji Zenin. The man walked towards Naruto and nodded. The boy, his Shikigami, and the girls vanished in a blur that crumpled the ground beneath his feet. I hope you're aware of what you're doing, Oji. The man vanished. Nobito groaned as Oji's rage filled the area. Just what I needed. But he wasn't sure if it'd be him that'd be getting the worst of it. NRK. The news had spread like wildfire amongst the Tokyo High campus, the exact details not skimped out on and reaching ears aplenty. And so most of the blonde's inner circle stood outside of a single door, Naruto's room in the dormitories. Megumi swallowed as he reached out and slowly turned the doorknob, only for a heavy feeling to settle over his and everyone else's shoulders. Yaga-sensei! Yaga-sensei! Yudaheim's voice called out over the phone in the principal's hand, the man grimacing at the feeling pressing down on him. What happened? Tsumaki swallowed as Megumi's trembling fingers pushed the door open so they could see in. And see him, sitting against a wall, one arm resting on a raised knee, eyes crystal clear, and form nearly just a hazy image, was Naruto Uzumaki. Laying down, seemingly asleep, in front of him on a pair of futons were Mai and Maki. The last one rounding up the room was Satoru, who sat on the opposite wall Naruto had, both knees pulled up and arms hanging off their tops. And Nichan? Megumi swallowed as he stepped into the room. The pressure nearly pushed him to his knees before it released almost entirely. Megumi blinked, wiping his cheek of sweat that had built up before looking at the still intense blonde. It's probably best to not disturb him, Megumi, Satoru said simply, the group turning to him. Satoru. What happened? Yudaheim asked with a concerned voice. What's this I hear about Naruto attacking the Zenin clan? It's what it sounds like, Satoru said, getting a choke out of her. NRK. Yudaheim paled as the students around her flinched. He what? Momo froze as Miwa swallowed in horror. What? Why? Likely because of the state he found Mai and Maki in. The group froze at Satoru's words, Yudaheim the most as her pupils shrank. Concerning, Mekamaru said, very much so. Meeting with Naruto Uzumaki had given the long-range robot a good idea of the kind of person he was. Buddha was the word that came to mind. A peace-loving individual who sought joy for many in himself. Not to say he was a pure pacifist, he certainly wasn't, but that put him into context, someone who could fight well but chose to not make every argument into a domain of combat but more words. Yes, Naruto was very much like Buddha in that regard, so, what the hell had happened to the twin sisters for him to, from what they'd been told, destroy the Kakuri unit of the Zenin clan? NRK. Satoru simply told the story of what he knew and not everything. Hurried as soon as I felt the large amount of random cursed energy usage before finding him like that. The Goju head explained. Nobito probably send Ranta to inform him of the time of his fight. Megumi wheezed along with Tsumaki. Yaga grimaced while Mei's eyes had never been colder. The last two members of their group wore looks of apathy and concern. Shoko had worn the former, eyes narrowed, while the latter had been worn by none other than a recent grade 1 sorcerer of theirs, Kento Naami. He was a tall man, even beating out Satoru's tall frame, with fair skin, an angular face, dirty blonde hair and a neat haircut, and small brown eyes, wearing a cream-colored suit, a blue dress shirt, a yellow tie and black dress shoes. He adjusted his circular glasses with a grimace. He walked into the room before standing before Naruto. The man didn't do anything more than sit at the blonde's side. It'd be hard to not tell what you're feeling, the businessman-looking sorcerer said. It's not wrong to feel rage or wrath, but do not let it overtake you. A mind of rage is one wrought with weakness that will be taken advantage of. The intensity of the blonde's stare vanished behind his eyelids, but his bristling tail remained. His position hadn't changed, his demeanor had only shifted. When those eyes opened again, normal blue orb stared at the group with what had to be an apologetic gaze, but one blink later had the blonde stare on the Zenin twins returning. You always were good at that, Naomi, Satoru said with a smile that quickly left as something pinged off his senses. Ranta, Naruto called out, and the blonde's voice nearly startled the group again. A familiar young man coming into view, a letter in his hands. He simply held out his hand. The Zenin teen came over quickly before handing the item to the blonde, sitting in Saiza on his other side and wait. Naruto's tail came around and undid the latch, alarming Ranta still, before the blonde read the contents of the message. Tell Nobito I'm coming for his brother tonight, Naruto said simply, eyes closed as he dropped the letter in front of the older boy's knees. Ranta nodded somberly, picking up the letter and folding it gently before getting up. Ranta, the teen flinched as he looked at Naruto to find a calm blue eye peering at him. I don't blame you, Naruto said simply, startling the Zenin boy whose head fell. But I'm not happy with your family right now, I understand. The teen took his leave as Naruto took in a deep breath that seemed to take something from the room. Then he breathed out and something else filled the empty space. Satoru's eyes widened behind his blindfold as he watched what the blonde had just done. He filtered the cursed energy in the room and released what I can assume is positive energy. Nichan! Came a voice from Yaga's back, a cloth carrier allowing a small black and white figure to jump out. You got scary, Panda said as he hurried over before sitting in front of the sighing, but smiling, Naruto. Yeah, I'm not exactly happy with someone, Panda-kun, Naruto said simply, patting the bear's head. So, at the moment, I'm kinda in the middle of something. I'll play with you tomorrow. The panda bear, curse corpse puppet, nodded, Nanami blinking at the bear and then Naruto. I see, he said like it made sense. Your relationships are varied. Naruto cracked a small smile at that, getting up before turning to a window. Sorry for the trouble, everyone, but I need to be ready for this. He disappeared out a window, leaving a room full of concerned and sighing people. Is he gonna be alright? Panda asked with floppy ears, Nanami sighing a bit before patting the bear. He should be, he said. Children shouldn't be dealing with such complex things. But I believe he understands where his emotions, wants, and truths stand. He will stand before you once more. Panda nodded as Satoru smiled before rubbing the back of his head. An arcade midnight field in the mountains around Tokyo Jujutsu High. It had been a large field of grass and white lilies that sat on the side of a mountain trail, the large stone structure's walls sitting on one side with a cliff on the other. Naruto landed like a ghost, the moon high in the sky and shining a light down on himself. Oji, Nobito, Satoru, the others including the blonde's parents, and last but not least, the Zenin twins. The looks of shame on their faces could have sparked his anger all over again, but he knew better. He would know better. Naruto didn't think he'd need to be reminded so often of who he was and how he should be acting, but he was glad he had people around him to give him those bits of advice. Wearing a familiar pair of clothes to when he'd first met the Zenin clan, the boy hadn't kept the wrappings around his left eye, his gaze intense with just that fact alone. Oji hadn't changed his attire at all for the occasion, the man simply unsheathing his cursed tool in preparation as Naruto removed his weights. The heavy thuds of each one indicated a fight of nearly equal in physical strength individuals. Nobito blinked and stared at the tail behind Naruto. This fight occurring beneath the full moon will shine as penance for the loser. There is no time limit, no limitations, nor calls for outside help. I won't stop this fight until one fighter is either unconscious or not breathing. You uncle! Mai choked as Maki grimaced. This is dash. That's enough, Mai, Nobito said as she flinched. They are the ones who agreed to this. Naruto Boya was even the one who instigated. I shall not have you marring their decision. Mai clenched her fists at that as Maki stared at Naruto before blinking in alarm at the monkey tail around his waist. What? She stared in disbelief even as the wind picked up a bit, the boy removing his staff from his back and elongating it. When did he dash? Begin dash. There was a bang. Before Nobito could even finish, Naruto's staff end slamming into the raised blade of Oji. The man flung the boy off with a grimace, form covering itself in visible cursed energy before he lunged at the boy like a bullet. Naruto landed before throwing his body into the air, dodging a painful-looking slice that carved into the ground. He took aim with his staff. The weapon's tip extended out and slammed into Oji's raised guard, the man's form skidding back before he tilted his weapon, Sparks flew as he turned his block into a parry before he ran along the extended curse tool's length. Naruto landed and returned Ryubang back to normal, leaning back from a slashing katana, kicking up at Oji's wrist. The blow rocked the man's bones. Such strength in a child? His grip held tight, blade coming around to slice past Naruto's noggin, the boy ducking out of the way before jumping back. He held onto it. As much as it pained him to admit it, Oji was clearly a warrior. His eyes narrowed before he shot into a blur that surrounded the older man with raising leaves. The swordsman's form glowed as he crouched low, falling blossom emotion. The man's form became enshrouded by a calm-looking energy film that shined white, his hand on his blade handle. The raising leaves slowly encroached on him before his simple domain flickered at a presence. His blade swung out, a trail of flames sprouting behind it. The swing was strong enough to dispel the leaf tornado, his weapon biting into flesh. A crack rang out before he was sent flying. Sage's golden liquid spilling hands released their hold on Oji's blade as Naruto landed from his dropkick. The Zenin grit his teeth before righting himself and digging his feet into the ground. Their eyes met and the blonde and brunette met in the middle. The crash banklang rocked his eardrums and had Megumi covering his sensitive hearing organs. "Oh ow!" he grimaced, Sumiki, my, and Momo doing the same. That hurts. How is Nai-chan dealing with it? The blonde in question shot up over a thrust of Oji's blade before coming down at the man's wrist with his weapon. The older combatant's grip on his blade went slack as he just let go, kicking out at the aerial boy only for his blow to be stopped by Sage's crossed arms and then grab. Naruto landed on the Zenin's grabbed limb before drop-kicking the man away once more, Sage pulling his hammer off his back while Naruto landed. The two gave chase before the air filled with dodges and heavy blows, Oji regaining his blade sometime during the exchanges and filled the air with twangs and swings. "You get used to it, Megumi-kun," Minato said with a frown, eyes narrowed and watching Oji's every move. "You old bastard." It made the man furious to think the other father would beat his own children for such misogynistic reasons. Kushina wasn't much better. The woman's glowing hair was all the indication anyone needed to know. Depending on a specific outcome, she'd be charging up on a Zenin. Damn the consequences all to hell. Yutaheim grimaced as she gripped her hands tightly. How could he? What is he thinking? It made her angry. How could the man beat his children for such selfish, disgusting reasons? Were they not his blood? Naruto's staff slammed into a katana before it was circumvented with a mere twirl of the sword, the boy's shikigami appearing at Oji's side before backhanding at the man's chest. The Zenin stepped in low and towards the blonde who twirled his staff in time to lock their weapons together. Oji pressed down before jetting the weapon out. Naruto's head dodged each thrust before he kicked up at the man's chest. He wheezed, giving the blonde enough time to roll away as Sage came down on the Zenin clan member with a glowing black hammer. Sage connected and the eruption of dust and grass had Naruto jumping back more, the boy recalling the shikigami the moment he did, just in case. Just in time as a whistling sound cut through the smoke and rubble, dispelling it. TCH, Oji grimaced, rolling his shoulders with a bit of a hiss. No real damage and my simple domain even reacted in time. That shikigami was trouble, the amount of strength it had leaving Oji at a disadvantage due to its size. Even worse, the blonde was somehow strong enough to match up to his reinforcement, and simple domain. The fact the boy's blows could parry his was worrying, the fact he could react was even more concerning. I'm losing ground like this. Would he have to use his own curse technique? Against a child? No, he's a monster. The earlier events hadn't left him. The image of a raging ape burned into his mind, along with that ape's image overlapping with another's. A similar raging man with just as much animalistic terror to imbue in the Zenin clan. He grit his teeth at the memory before holding his sword above his head in both hands. Naruto watched the weapon blaze with energy that quickly changed into flames. I can't bring out Fujin for this. The Kirin was fast, make no mistake, likely enough to bother even Oji, but the man's simple domain made him concerned for its life. Sage's hands are already cut. The wounds had stopped bleeding, but Naruto had never seen carves into his shikigami's flesh before. He didn't know if this was because of the Oni gaining more life, or if the man's attacks were that potent. Best to think it was the latter. He shifted his weapon's form into that of a hammer, before giving it to Sage. That's dangerous. Yaga frowned as Kurwa held their human son in her arms. He's right in that Sage's existence is very tentative in this situation, but he's putting his own body at risk to Oji's flames. Panda looked concerned. not even his father's hand calming him. He's going to go in as pure offense, I think. Rika looked at Oji's glowing form, simple domain. She didn't understand the concept in practice but knew what it did. It was like a force field that protected against domain expansions and their sure-hit abilities. But it could do more than that. It could be customized to do more with cursed energy and its effects. The falling blossom emotion is supposed to be a reactive simple domain, Maki told them. It's meant to attack whatever comes into contact with it. I see, Minato frowned. Naruto can dodge it but it's Sage who's most in danger, and he knew his son. That'd be a downside when it came to be. Nobito raised a brow at the other side of the match. That's an odd choice. He knew it'd likely be something that Blonde was going to work well with, but he was still just confused about this entire move. What is it? Boy and Shikigami circled the Zenin swordsman, Oji's eyes narrowing as he held his stance. Then he turned on a dime, gaze on the approaching Sage and hands coming down. The Oni spirit dodged the slash of flames that burnt the ground by him before he swung around with his hammer. Oji ducked under it before slashing at the teen Oni's abdomen only to stumble and miss. A kick to his shin had made him falter to the side before his simple domain activated. Naruto leaned back barely in time to watch the energy-coated blade slice through some of his hair. It's faster. He flipped to the side before Oji was skipping back from Sage's continuous swings. The spirit handled the weapon well, dangerously so, and left the man grimacing as he slipped in and out of the barrage of smashes before finding his opening. It was still a childish spirit, one without much height, reach, nor speed, so he deactivated his technique before widening his stance, a circle of flames spinning around his feet. Sage had already been mid-swing when his move struck. Golden and red blood spilled as Oji grimaced. Naruto and Sage rolled backwards, Ryubang hitting the ground a moment after they did. Naruto? Kushina's shout had Naruto grimacing before he got up, with a cut down his arm and one down the middle of Sage's chest. The only reason the spirit was still alive was due to the boy's interference. Oji frowned but readied his blade. This is your last moment of reprieve. I shan't hold my blade after this. Surrender, boy. You and your foolish actions might be forgiven. Blow it out your hole, you old biddy, Naruto said, and Oji's face grew cold and uncaring. I ain't losing, he added as he shot Sage a look before the blonde dispelled the Shikigami to his talisman pouch, removing something else from it. A roll of bandages covered in white ink scripture on its black surface. When Naruto finished wrapping his palms to his elbow, he pulled out Fujin's talisman and slapped it on the side. The white ink glowed blue. What? Yudahime blinked before Minato nodded. I see, more talisman work. There would be moments where Naruto can't make use of a Shikigami. Whether it's because he's in the public eye, captured, or if it's even too dangerous for them. Fire is Fujin's weakness, so he can't use him normally. But like this, he can. It's supposed to give him more close-range abilities, Satoru said as Mai grimaced while Naomi nodded. I understand the concept, the man said as Satoru blinked before making an ah sound. Oh, you're the one they fashioned it after. Perhaps. Kushina nodded with narrowed eyes. Naruto tapped his fists together, the flow of light blue wind visible to the naked eye. Oji simply reactivated falling blossom emotion. The blonde widened his stance. He was already in the man's face. An explosion of wind following behind him. Oji swung and the blonde floated around the slash impossibly. What dash? A fist to his chin sent the man flying as the man landed. Oji crashed into the mountain wall with a grunt. He's faster? His eyes narrowed as the boy appeared in front of him again. Humph. The man's simple domain expanded before Naruto's eyes narrowed. What followed was a series of exchanges that seemed nearly impossible for the blonde to react to, but he kept pace. Whether it was him using the back of his fist against the back of Oji's blade, barely when the man's blade was caught in his hands, or even when the blonde's fist alone repelled it, they kept going, stomping feet crossed for the nth time as their owners clashed. How? Oji growled as he swept his weapon across the blonde's chest, the boy's form skirting around him in an instant, wisps of blue energy licking off his heels. Naruto's fist found the middle of Oji's back before the man's simple domain reacted. Blood flew as his backward swing sprouted a flaming arc that the blonde hadn't expected. He still escaped out of the glowing circle around the old swordsman, but Oji slowly approached regardless, confidence renewed. Naruto grimaced, rubbing his thumb over the cut on his chest. He closed it at the same time, convenient, but that didn't change the current situation. Falling blossom emotion gives him the reaction time to keep up with me, and the blonde had forgotten and thought he'd have the speed advantage. That was clearly wrong. My paled as Maki grimaced. This is bad, they said to the others who either frowned or looked worried. Shoko considered the situation at hand. There has to be something. Hadn't the blonde and his Shikigami landed more than enough blows to lower Oji's capabilities? There's something off. How had Oji shrugged off such blows like they were nothing? Did he make a binding vow with himself? That was possible, but for what? Binding vows were powerful instruments of cursed energy, but one couldn't just make one that did everything. Yeah, it is, Satoru whispered to her as her eyes narrowed. It's a binding vow that enhances his cursed energy when fighting a Goju. Shoko choked, eyes wide, of course. The man was using the rules of their world to his utmost. So, what did he give up in exchange? Likely usage of cursed energy for maybe a month? That'd be detrimental. Naobito huffed. You gave up a month's worth of cursed energy for this boy and yet you haven't beat him. He honestly wondered where his brother's pathetic nature ended. For the amount of effort he put into this, the binding vow, the usage of his cursed technique, and the deployment of his simple domain, he hadn't beaten Naruto. It either said a lot about the boy or the opposite about his brother. Speaking of Naruto, the boy's previous move made no sense to him. Why did he save the Shikigami? Why did he release it? What was that liquid that spilled from the talisman spirit's body? Had that been some kind of preserve? Embalming fluid? Transfigured blood? The Zenin head just knew he'd have more questions than he could fathom after this. They fought time and time again, the two combatants coming to blows easily over cycles, and throughout either faltered even if they both should have. Oji grimaced. After all this time, all this effort, how is he standing? The man had maybe a bruise here or there but otherwise was completely fine. Naruto, not so much. The cut on his cheek, the large one on his chest, the one on his arm from when he foolishly saved a Shikigami, and more small ones decorated the boy's form like patterns. Yet he kept coming after him with those eyes of distaste and disappointment. A child. To him on how he raised his daughters. The Zenin man was losing control of his temper. Naruto, meanwhile, knew he was losing ground. I'm breaking down his cursed energy but it's still too high. He'd known what the man had done long before he even originally arrived. The sheer amount of cursed energy he'd gained in under 8 hours was too large to be some secret method. It had likely been because of a binding vow. You just keep on piling on why you're a bastard, who went this far to prove they were allowed to beat their children? Phew, you're a piece of work, old man. Oji grit his teeth but didn't respond. His reinforcements failing, the man's cursed energy kept spasms sporadically instead of staying in that neat flow sorcerers of his caliber should have had. I just need to keep on bringing on the damage. He could keep going. Even now, his body was numbing the pain all on its own. He'd either beat him without it, or he'd be gaining his first technique tonight. Naruto's tail smoothed out as he focused inward. Make him waste his energy, the blonde thought, eyes closed, focus on it. He felt it all, the man's angered energy and the flow of it. When Oji approached with a stab, the blonde tilted around it. A slash was ducked before he slid out from between the man's legs. The back slash, as he called it, was parried. Don't engage, just continue to waste his energy. Make him angry, make the man weaken himself. Oji grimaced as each swing of his sword was dodged, parried, or feinted against by the boy. He's trying to rile me up, he realized almost immediately as he stepped back from an exchange. Your plan won't work, boy. It's been working before, you're really not good at it, Naruto said without hesitation as Oji's knuckles grew white. I gave you chances, you fossil. Every time, you seem to fail it. Oji felt his rage grow. He lunged with measured steps before slashing across at the dodging blonde, before flames coated the tip of his blade and allowed it to ascend faster than before. The blonde's eyebrow furrowed before he jumped back but not unharmed. When he landed, his cut-up top allowed the fresh blood to come through, gaining Oji's satisfaction. Humph, what? Actually do something important for once? There was a silence as Naruto stood up and rubbed the back of his neck, the moon throwing a shadow over his now open eyes. Outside of actually having Mai-chan and Maki-chan, when was the last time you did any good? Why, you insolent child? I'm just pointing out the obvious, you old crow, Naruto said with rolling shoulders. You could have been an amazing person but you're not. You could have been someone important but you're not. Each sentence raised the man's hackles as his cursed energy flared out. Naruto shot the man with a pitying look. What a sad existence. He floated out of the way of a trailing slash whose damage shot out and climbed up the mountain wall. One more word out of you, Oji warned. And you'll what? Miss? Naruto baited. A raging blaze shot up around the man before he lunged at the preteen. Each scorching slash was dodged to Naruto's fullest. I guess I should have expected this, Naruto thought as he slipped down before shooting back into a crouch. His flames can expand. Courage of wrath, the man uttered as he walked towards Naruto, the flames coming from his blade beginning to rage about the field of grass and flowers. I'll ensure the Gojo clan can even grovel at my feet for doing their work for them, Oji thought as Naruto frowned. I'm not gonna be able to dodge this without getting hurt, Naruto thought before widening his stance, arms at his sides. He's using everything to attack me right now. I just need to outlast this. The air around his feet distorted. I won't lose, Naruto thought with narrowed eyes. Megumi. Something sparked within him. Tsumiki. It happened again. Maki. His eyes went to the grimacing girl in question. His body filled with a lightness he couldn't possibly describe. I've got people to protect, Naruto thought with a grin as Oji's glare reached him. It sparked brightly and fully, alarming the man as his advance stopped in alarm at the sight of it. Naruto's eyes closed in a full-blown grin, the boy standing up to his full height with a cheeky look. Hey old man, did you know that heavenly restrictions are pretty different? Naruto offered the man as he frowned. Yep, like I know. I knew 3 people who had one. You're probably familiar with 2 of them. Satoru stood up straight with a laugh as the others blinked at him. Oh good, it finally hit, Riko said in relief as the other processed her words before balking. All of them save for the kids. Huh? What do you mean? Miwa asked, looking concerned. I mean, Naruto-kun looks like he's barely surviving. Likely for only a couple more moments, Minato said with a proud smile as Noritoshi blinked in confusion. He's explaining it, you'll understand. Like with curse techniques, most heavenly restrictions are, in fact, different. What are you speaking of, boy? Oji got out with a frown. What's going on with him? What was with that symbol in his left eye? It's just, all aspects of Jujutsu kinda tie in one another, Naruto said with a smile. Like I was saying, I knew 3 people. One is Mechamaru over there. The robot on the sidelines flinched. How can you tell? The feeling of your soul, basically, Naruto shrugged as the robot choked again. Then, there's Maki Mai. I know how that sounds, but yeah, their souls are linked and they both have a heavenly restriction. The girls in question stared at him in disbelief. What are you talking about? Maki asked in disbelief. Mai's normal. Right. Nope, Naruto said. I told Mai-chan this once, but you guys being twins is considered an omen by those dumb old guys is because you guys are, together, a single soul. The reason Maki still has cursed energy but can't do even the basic stuff is because Mai has them. The reason Mai has a technique like she does is because that's what was originally traded, you girls. As one person, we're supposed to have that defective technique. He twitched his fingers. They stared at him in alarm as he nodded. I mean, I have to guess that's the case. Mai considered his words, looking down at her hands. It did always bother me why I even had such a cursed technique. And the more she thought about it, get rid of the energy in the body that allows it to be enhanced, Nobito said as he walked over with his chin in his hand as he observed his nieces. I suppose it makes sense. Go on, boy. I know where your last point is going. Naruto grinned at that before nodding. Then, since we're getting there, then there's Toji Zenin who kinda activated my heavenly restriction when he cut me down. It was a sad time. If I'd gained it faster, perhaps I could have stopped a lot of things. Riko M and I getting shot, my cousin going through death along with his friends, my master's, Toji Zenin's, death, all of it. Those in the know were surprised that he'd admit to it while those not in the know, well, what? Mai, Oji, Maki, and most of the Kyoto side balked. Minato and Yaga shot Nobito a look that the man shrugged at. I figured it out from our last little philosophy session about Megumi Boya. Megumi perked up at the Zenin head's words. Hold on. He was the student of the sorcerer killer. Mechamaru's glass eyes whirled in disbelief. Then, why hasn't he utterly dismantled Oji Zenin? Maybe that wasn't fair. The boy was just that still, a boy. Meanwhile, the man was an avid practitioner of sorcery and had experience that Naruto didn't, along with a well-trained body. The fact the blonde had lasted this long was more surprising than the otherwise. I wonder where this is going, Nobito said, turning the group's attention back on. The man stared, form freezing a bit along with the others, at stark white hair. Oji's eyes widened to impossible levels as Naruto hummed, looking up and grabbing a few of his glowing locks. Well, I guess this is because it built up too much. the boy said with a tone that reminded the man of earlier. I'm gonna get rid of a lot of this extra energy. You old fart, the boy grinned. And the mountain wall crumpled, Naruto landing in front of the destruction with crossed arms, form glowing a powerful white. Satoru's gaze snapped to him along with Minato, Nobito, and Mekamaru. That's some speed. And then the boy's shins exploded into red blood. What the fuck? In an instant, they healed like nothing had happened with hisses of steam, startling the boy's mother. And Naruto-kun? She called out to him. The boy rubbed the back of his head as the rubble shifted. Well, it's not like my body's able to handle all this power, you guys, Naruto told them with a shaky grin and curling pure white tail. I'm sorry. He felt it before he heard it, and Naruto batted aside the trailing flaming attack, eyes on the rubble still before it broke to reveal Oji. Well, I guess that solves that, Shoko said with a blink before cupping her chin. If he's right, that's power that's built up over, 6.5 years? She offered, recovered like it was nothing. Why is he glowing? Miwa asked with a swirly-eyed expression. Do people like Naruto-kun glow? Does his cousin? His mother? Kushina blinked before sweat dropping. Oh, ahihi. He giggled nervously as Minato shot her an amused smile. The woman's hair doing as her son had. That is from me, sorry, Kushina said with an apologetic grin. Satoru snickered. Oh, so our glow runs in the family. It seems so. Oji grimaced at the boy, his confidence waning. What was this? Was the boy not defective like Maki? Or had his ridiculous words from before held weight? No matter, Oji uttered as he widened his stance once more, simple domain expanding to contain the entire field. I shall end this fight here and now. Naruto considered his words before taking one step, and a field of powerfully green grass spread out beneath Oji's feet. The man startled and jumping back to the wall once more. What? Wow, that's gonna take some getting used to. Naruto's sweat dropped. Well, I fixed all your damage. Surrender, old man. All things considered, hurting you won't solve anything. Oji stared at him like he was insane and looked so offended he could kill. His weapon was engulfed in a blaze so strong, it lit up the top of the mountain. One cut, boy, the man sheathed his blade, flames spilling out and into it before they went from orange to white to blue. No matter your power, no matter your strength, I will down you in a single stroke. Naruto considered the man with a frown before sighing, holding out a hand at his side, and then a tower of white energy shot into the sky, the nearly fathomless amount that cleared the clouds and allowed the moon's light to shine down on them fully. Then the tower swirled into a single point, all that power shifting into one held-back arm while Naruto raised his other hand. Yellow. Satoru covered his blindfold from the glowing mandala amulet that formed in Naruto's other hand. Ah! Stop doing that! He held his face even as Shoko whistled long and proud. Damn, so that's where all your power went, Kushina-san, the younger woman said as the mother of one considered her words. And that item is? Shoko looked intrigued. You know, Naruto's birth is starting to make a lot more sense, Kushina said with a bit of a chuckle. Knock him down, boy. Should we really be saying that? Minato's sweat dropped. Break his legs. He joined in without remorse. Megumi's sweat dropped as Maki grinned viciously. Mai just looked awed and relieved, the fluffier-haired twin staring at her friend, her crush with adoration. Oji grimaced before coiling in everything. His body, his muscles, and what was left of his cursed energy. Everything balled into a single powerful point. The boy swung, and the top of the mountain was gone in a single wave of a limb. Oji's hair fell out of its ponytail, the extra light shining over his back shadowing his horror expertly, a waterfall of sweat falling from his brow. The man's weapon fell from his grasp as he hit his knees, Naruto coming over with a very mangled arm that hissed rapidly, replacing skin, mending muscle, and fixing bone quickly and easily but leaving the limb looking fidgety. That's gonna be for when I'm older, Naruto said flatly, body back to normal as he finally stood in front of Oji. I don't like using force if I can help it, Oji, the back-to-blonde boy said. What you did to your daughters was shitty. You chose that. They're your children and you chose that, Naruto whispered. The boy closed his eyes as Oji's lips moved. I lost everything. I wasn't the clan head because of them. I demanded less respect because of them. I was demoted in the eyes of my clan because of them. What was I to do? The man whispered. Be a better person, not for your clan to decide but yourself and your family you gave rise to. The man's head fell, shoulders slackened, as Naruto sighed before twitching his fingers. Naruto and the others coming over seconds later. This fight's over, the blonde said to the Zenin head, who nodded with a curious look at the boy's left eye. The golden mandala within it had him curious, but the one floating above the boy's left hand was more significant. And that is? The old man asked with a look of interest as Naruto lifted that hand to see the floating amulet. I was of the opinion your restriction took energy, not gave it back in years. What's going on? What is that? Riko began to say, only to blink as she and the others made it in time to see the odd accessory. That's the thing, she realized as Kawa's sweat dropped. Very adept of you, Riko, the woman said as her adopted daughter chuckled nervously. Look, for now, my body is killing me. Well, mostly my arm is, Naruto said, showing the twitchy but fully healed limb. Dad was right, it released my limits, but even beyond that. We'll look at it in the medical bay, Shoko said with a hum at the limb. There's likely a lot to learn about Naruto's powers with this. Naruto nodded before slowly moving the stiff limb into his sleeves, nodding to the others. Let's go. NRK. Maki and Mai had chosen to not return to their clan's estate for the next, maybe 3 days if they could get away with it. So, they also sat in the observation hall as Naruto laid on a gurney in front of Satoru, Shoko, Minato, Kushina, and Mekamaru. Surprisingly, though, his reasoning made sense. I have sensors for different occasions, thermal, visual, X-ray, energy, and more. So, the 5 were currently dealing with Naruto within the examination room. Mekamaru-kun, how would you compare Naruto-kun to, possibly, your past examinations of people with cursed energy? Shoko asked him. In the sense of seeing pathways, you won't see his energy due to a big factor. I'm confused why you'd state that, Mekamaru said as he crossed his arms, but his eyes glowed. But yes, I can. His pathways are a bit thinner and they flow from his core, right below his chest but a bit above the stomach. He questioned how long they'd keep going before revealing this. With Naruto's light show from before, there was literally no possible way for this not to get out. The boy's life would likely take a flip turn in the morning or the day after. How is it? Minato asked, the man setting up a series of talismans around his son's gurney. I guess you didn't expect this to happen, huh? He asked in amusement as Naruto's sweat dropped. Nope, though, I think I get what the penalty was, Naruto said. It was basically half done when I forced the blessed technique to activate. That's what he calls it, Mekamaru considered. So maybe it made it so it lasted the same percentage of years? Seems about right. Kushina smiled a bit sadly. Life for you might take a sharp turn after this, Naruto-kun. Yeah, well, we knew this was coming, the blonde boy said. I know, it just feels different. What are they talking about? Megumi wondered as the rest of the group hummed. The adults looked between one another before nodding. This may be a bit hard to understand, Yaga said as Panda sat on his head. Nichan's alright? The baby panda asked and the man nodded. Alright. The group explained the situation with Naruto, his awakening during the mission with the star plasma vessel, a bit of info on that part of the mission, and the current situation. By the end of it, the entire pack of kids balked. That sounds stupid. Momo squealed. Who just gets positive energy? Meanwhile, gasped I. When we first met, Naruto did say something like this. She realized as Maki blinked while Yurihime nodded. This is what he meant. The teacher smiled as the girl mumbled. He honestly didn't hide it from everyone that well, but the fact the secret lasted until it actually happened was just good fortune. Mai could see that. Naruto was always open with them. With her, she knew he and Maki weren't the same because he said as much. She was just reeling a bit. So, he didn't have super strength but got, growth multipliers? Maki asked with a finger on her chin. It's honestly still weird, she said, and now he has that yellow thing. Speaking of said object, it currently sat in Riko's hands, the girl humming at it. She messed with it a bit, rubbing the tails, tracing her fingers through the different color rings, and just observing it. I didn't know his powers could come off, if you get my drift. It's not something that really happens, Kento explained, adjusting his glasses with a curious look at it. You said his power would reflect Gojo-san's, yes? It should be the absolute reversal, Yurihime explained. The thing is, we only know so much from learning, observation. Satoru and Riko, had the latter two not had a sense for this, we'd be a lot less knowledgeable. Most of the other children just looked awed, shocked, or confused. Miwa was in the last category, eyes blank. Huh? Noritoshi, meanwhile, was in the second. What would this mean for him? The boy didn't know, but in a way, Naruto had likely just become like himself and Megumi. He now held a powerful unique technique and skill set that, if biology allowed, would start a new line of sorcerers, another clan like they'd preempted just for the sake of privacy. Momo just seemed taken aback, looking both awed and curious. I wonder what he'll do now, she considered. This was kinda big. Naruto was so unique of a sorcerer no other could literally match up to it. Now, she didn't envy the immediate future for him, though. Momo understood politics more than even Noritoshi did at times. Naruto was in for some rough questioning. I just got here, came the shout of a woman who burst into the hall. Huh? Momo balked at her while Megumi blinked. Yuki-san? The 10 Shadows user said in surprise, the others shooting him looks of confusion. Well, she's the 3rd special grade sorcerer. What? Most of the group balked save for most of the adults. Why yeah, we met her a while back. Yep, it's sad what happened recently. Yuki shot them all a small smile, dressed as she had been years ago. But let's move on to other things. Like the golden boy. Oh right. You guys said Naruto was being pursued? Mai said in horror as her twin sister blinked before grimacing. We have to stop them. I already dealt with that. Yuki waved her off with a grin. This Nei-chan can handle some pretty tough customers. Satoru made a confused sound, leaning his forehead on the glass. Yuki Tsukumo, what the hell are you here? What? Finally decide to take a mission? Stop bullying her. Naruto's sweat dropped from his position. Sup Yukine. Ugh. The duality of youth. The woman looked ready to cry. Naruto-kun, I can figure out most of what just happened and I have an idea for you, she winked. Anarchy. Bright and early in the morning, Yuki grinned with her biker jacket and helmet on. Standing at that outpost once more, she grinned as Naruto said goodbye to his family and friends. Wearing a new black cloak, orange pants, and a chainmail shirt, the boy had on some blue ninja sandals and a large burlap sack at his feet. I guess this is the start of my journey for that tree, Naruto said as he ruffled Megumi's hair before patting Tsumaki on the shoulder. Good luck with my cousin, he's a known troublemaker, he said as the 3 of them hugged it out. Satoru grinned without remorse as Yudahime hummed with a shrug. He is, she said with a smile. You'll do well, I'm sure, Naruto-kun. Just be sure to send letters to your parents. We'll all eventually hear of them. Of course, Naruto said, letters are gonna be all I can send to you guys. He rubbed the back of his head. His phone in his room back in the dormitory. The idea was pretty obvious, but the notion was to just go on his tree journey now instead of waiting to be grilled by the higher-ups. A month before your birthday, honestly. Minato smiled as he pat his son on the shoulder. You'll become something great one day even away from these eyes. Kneeling down, the Uzumaki family hugged before the parents pat their son on the back, pulling away with grins aplenty. God, it's like I'm seeing him off to college, Kushina whined, hugging her boy some more as he grinned nervously. That's great, Mom, but you can let go. Naruto wheezed as his friends snickered. No. My credibility. It's all down the drain, now. The woman smirked as she put him down, and he shot her the most suspicious look he could, which wasn't a lot but he tried. Honestly, you're gonna have this old lady feeling so guilty. I'm not falling for that. Satoru snickered. Just don't forget, the first years start in April. Your first year should be 2016 since you're basically 2 years older than Megumi. I'll start the year after that, Maki said, so you'll be a 3rd-year student by the time Megumi's in. She smirked. Won't stop me though. Glad you're happy with my age, Naruto said as they knocked wrists. I hope this doesn't turn into some crazy quest. I'm serious, he added flatly as Maki shot him a hum. I don't envy your future. A little. Thanks, Maki-chan, you're a gem. The girl smirked once more before pushing Mai forward with Momo, much to the girl's protest. Why you guys? She nearly shrieked as Yudahime smiled before raising her phone discreetly, as stupid. Mai muttered before turning to face the grinning Naruto. Ugh, she blushed. She hugged him tightly, cheeks puffed out. I'm gonna miss ya, ya lug. I thought I was a blonde, shows what I know. You're ruining it, stop. Sorry. Naruto said quickly, hugging her back a good bit. Okay, so like when I come back, don't throw a knife or something at me, that's not an idea, Maki. The other twin shrugged. It was worth a shot. Your sister's going to kill me. Yeah, my sweat dropped as the blonde boy paled. Yeah, she just pat him on the back. Good luck with that. Not helping. Mei came forward with a grin before leading a young boy to the blonde as she crouched. Say goodbye to Naruto-kun, ui. The woman squealed as her little brother huffed before nodding to the older male. He walked over before patting the older boy on the back thrice. I'll take care of sister. I'm equipped with all the necessary mannerisms, Yui said as Naruto chuckled before ruffling his hair. Good luck, your sister's gonna cry for some reason after I'm gone. I get worried, Naruto said as Yui nodded with a determined expression. Alright, Nori, Mechs, Momo, Miwa, see you guys on the flip side of a couple years later. Miwa gave a big wave with a grin as Mechamaru shot the blonde a smaller one. Take care, ensure your training flourishes well, the robot said. NRK. For, in time, I know we'll have some kind of working relationship. The boy in the machine smiled a bit. Naruto-kun. NRK. The blonde boy grinned. Don't cause trouble for Momo whispered as she and Maki came back in close and leaned in. Who knows what kind of bombshell she'll become when you're gone. What dash? Yeah, you gotta be sensitive, Maki grinned, looking more like she just wanted some fun before he left. Who knows how many boys she'll turn down. Take these words to heart, Naruto-kun. Why yeah, to heart. The sagely Momo and barely controlling herself Maki left him with pats on the back. Why are they hard to understand now? I thought this came later. The blonde paled as Noritoshi walked up to him and nodded. It's as you say, feminine wiles will never be understood, the usually stoic boy said with a look of sympathy. My god, Nori, I never knew the day would come where we're in agreement on something. I'm surprised, myself. The women's sweat dropped at the handshaking boys while the men nodded. It's exactly as it sounds, they said. Of course, the men would side with the boys. Alright, that should be all, yeah? Yuki grinned as Naruto nodded, grabbing his bag before throwing it into the side compartment and getting on. Alright, ladies, gents, boys, girls. It's time for this show to get on the road. The motorcycle revved up before Naruto grinned one last time. He threw them the biggest thumbs up. I'll be back.